Good morning, Tradeify TV, and welcome to another edition of our wonderful morning program. It is Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. It is 60 minutes before the New York Open, which means it's time for us to get you ready for your trading day. Now, we're down a man this morning for the rest of the week. So the show now has 30% less hair, but 0% less white tees. We had to keep the tradition going. Nick's not dead. He'll be back next week, but we do feel like we have to represent him on this show. I'm not doing this all 3 days. Only have one nice white shirt, and I'm not washing it 3 days in a row. So it's just for today, Nick. We love you. We miss you. We'll see you next week. I am, however, joined by the Matcha Mommy herself, Miriam. Miriam, how are you this morning?
I am doing so great today, and I'm so glad that you actually mentioned the white tea. This is the whitest tea I have, and I don't know if you guys can see it. It's actually not purely white. It's kind of like a cream, but like you said, we had to do it for Nick today because our boy is gone for 3 days. So it's either that or we just go at each other's necks all week. And I don't have the energy for that,
of course we're going to, but no, it's it's Nick's on a previously planned engagement with some of his buddies. That doesn't prevent us from giving him a ton of shit about it when he gets back next week, and talking about how amazing the show was without him, just to make him feel a little guilty. But Nick, we know you're probably watching or will be watching on replay. We love you. We'll see you next week. So, Miriam, I think we are at a very pivotal point in the markets today. I'm really excited for, I think, what where we are in terms of a very pivotal point. Well, let's look at the 4 hour first. Miriam, the 550 area is very strong resistance. We basically have taken 3 runs at it here on the NQ, and we just can't get above it. So what do you see when you look for confirmation of a breakout or a breakdown?
Yeah, this is an interesting, like you mentioned, this is an interesting area that we're in right now. So what I really want to see is how well we respect the previous day's levels, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at my charts here, I'm looking at the 1 hour chart of the NASDAQ, and this dark area right here is the previous day. Now we are respecting the previous day's highs, so we are holding those highs thus far. However, if you look at this kind of pinkish zone right here, this is a seller zone that I've had on the 1 hour chart. Now, I would like to see not just acceptance above yesterday's high, but I do want to see acceptance above this supply zone, which is sitting above 21,560. So if we can hold above yesterday's high, what I'd like to see is sort of like a retest, right? I want to see a retest of yesterday's high. I have VWAP sitting kind of in confluence with that area right now on the 1 hour. So what I would like to see is a possible pullback to this area, because if we can hold this area right here, I think we have a good chance of having more momentum to the upside and continuing and possibly, making another nice move like we did yesterday. Obviously the other end of that, which is what I would prefer, is we do have some room to the downside, right? We do have this, not just this trend line here on the 1 hour. This is actually a 4 hour trend line that I have here, but if you look at this, we have some room to the downside, not only taking out yesterday's, we did yesterday see this nice little dip into this trend line in the morning. This is actually the trade that we took, or at least that I took this yesterday right when the market opened. We had news come out, negative news, and then we got this nice pop back up, and it's just been up since in the day. So again, I would love to see, if bulls have conviction, a retest of yesterday's high, and then pass clear this supply zone essentially, and then we have room to the upside here. Again, if bulls don't have that conviction today, I do see us breaking pre-market low here, this trend line obviously, and then we do have room down to yesterday's low. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is very hard for me to say, but I agree with you. So actually, this is the thing with that we're talking about when it comes to market prognostication, right? And as much as we as traders, we of course want to know where the markets are going next. Projecting where the markets are going is not actually our job. Our job is to, I mean, that's the job of all the idiots on CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg, all the entertainers, as it were, right? Their job is to, say, oh, I think we're going up here to, honestly, as day traders, we don't give a shit where the market's going to be 2 hours from now, 3 hours from now. The only time we genuinely have an interest in the market going one way or the other is when we're actually in a trade. So for me, I always am constructing narratives in my head every day of a potential bull market, potential bear market for that day, right? I mean, honestly, it's one of those weird things, when you tell people you're in trading and they don't really know what that is, right? They think investing, and they'll be like, where do you think the markets are going to be 3 months from now? And I got to very nicely say, I really don't care. Just tell me where they're going to be 10 minutes from now, 15 minutes from now. But for me, if I'm sitting here, gun to my head, where are we headed today? I think we're going to, we may test the 540 to 550 level and make new highs. Boy, I don't know if we're going to have the juice to get through there, especially this morning, and especially with FOMC minutes on deck later today. We know that interest rates, we know we've already seen sort of the opening shots fired in the Trump versus Jay Powell feud last meeting, and I think those calls are going to continue to get louder if and when the Fed continues to hold rates steady. But it's going to be very interesting to see kind of, the market nerd in me wants to get in those minutes a little bit, but the trader in me really doesn't care. We just need a trend and an indicator to steer her by, as it were.
Absolutely. And it's a good point too. I mean, we do have the minutes coming out today at 11 Eastern. And this is kind of one of those days where, we might get a slow morning. We'll see what the minutes come out as, but typically, we don't have Jay Powell, Daddy Powell talking today, as people would like to call him, but we don't have him speaking necessarily today. We do have some, I think we have one Fed member speak. Yeah, Kashkari speaking today, or he already spoke, actually. Never mind. But what I'm trying to say is usually on days when we have Jerome Powell speaking, those are the days where you do want to maybe keep it tight, or maybe just not even trade until after he speaks. That's usually how I trade. And so today, like I said, it might be a slow moving day today. We might get this like slow grind up, if anything. Again, to your point though, Matt, we're not trying to predict what's going to happen. We're just trying to react to how this data comes out, how the market reacts to, just the recent moves in the market lately. So as traders, again, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at today. But we also have some amazing stuff packed in today. I mean, we have a great guest lined up for you guys. We have Jake.
Really, Miriam? Tell us all about it. Who is it?
Rake trades. I mean, I don't want to spoil on the news. We're gonna have Rake come on and talk about himself, talk about his trading style, talk about just everything that you guys want to know about him. We're gonna have a great show packed for you guys today, so we're super excited. We're gonna have him come on a little bit before the market opens today, so make sure that you are in chat and ready to go.
All right, so we got a little bit, we're pushing to session highs right now. We're breaking out above the 530 level. So 550 to me is an area that's just vital. And the reason for that is because of this 4-hour chart, right? This, again, 540 to 550 level was rejected back on the 15th. It was rejected on the 19th, and it rejected once again on the 21st. So that's basically it. The way that the candles form, I'm not going to call it a double or a triple top. It's all sort of in consolidation at that point. But at least what we're headed for now could very well be a double top, or like I said, maybe even a triple if you want to go there. Do we have the juice to break out? And we basically be making highs that we haven't seen since back in the middle of February, since back at the very beginning of all this tariff mess. So it'll be very interesting to see if we've got the juice to get there. So I'm going to be watching very closely between the 540 and the 550 level. I want to see us get there. Miriam, I'd love to see us get there in the pre-market and at least test that area to give us a session high to potentially play for a breakout trade. I would play a move up a little higher, maybe up towards the 600, 650 level if we break through. But I'm going to be very cautious, and any long trades in the opening hour today are going to be very, very see green, take green, and I'm not necessarily looking for bigger than 20 to 30 point hits. Now to the downside, I may lighten position size and play for a move. I think if we reject the 550, we've got room all the way down to 320. I see that on both the zone here. I see it on some of the balance indicators that I use on Sierra that I can't bring on here because it's on another computer. But we are at just a very heavy area of resistance, a very, like you talked about, a prior selling zone here as well. The bulls have to take control. I think not only do they have to take control, I think they have to take control early in the New York session. I think if in the first hour we have not cracked above 550, I'm not sure we'll head there. Of course, barring some sort of tweet about tariffs or a statement from the president. I haven't seen, I actually got to pull up my newsfeed here in the background, but I haven't seen any of scheduled remarks or anything today, but we'll only pull that up in the background here.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are you looking for in the opening hour today, Miriam?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think we really need to see yesterday's high hold. I think if bulls want to have any sort of conviction today, that's going to be the level that I see them hold. Now, we could get something called a gap and go, right? What that typically means is we essentially just gap up from yesterday's high and we just continue moving up. I don't have major conviction on that. Just to your point, we have been rejecting this level, since, I mean, on my charts, it's been since, earlier this month as well. But this is also just a level where we just want to make sure we are being extra diligent. We are not just jumping into anything. But I will say that if we do break these highs, we have some room. We have some room.
A lot of room if we break these highs. We basically
Absolutely.
have room up to the prior top of the zone, which is all the way up at 22,300. And
Yeah.
and honestly, this is just a few months ago, so we may still respect this zone and its highs and lows. But the fact that, again, guys, this is why some of the zone stuff that I look at is so important. When we move back into a prior zone, it really takes some energy and some buying and or selling to break down from that area. So again, I think we're going to get higher. I don't know if it's today. I think we may need to take one little run back, maybe 100, 150 points and get a running start to crack through that 550 level. But also the way the markets have gone, and especially in the first hour, am I expecting a strong move right at the open to the upside? Not necessarily. Would that shock me? No, it would not. And if anything shocks you in the market over the past couple of months, then you haven't been paying attention. So we are, what are we now? We're about 45 minutes from the New York Open, and about a half hour away. Rake Trades is going to join us. Also, Miriam, we have a little bit of a milestone that we want to celebrate today. Right before we came on the air today, we hit 10,000 subscribers in our channel. Again, this particular channel hadn't, I think it just done some basic content in terms of account explanation and all that. Wasn't a ton of live content on there. So the majority of those came in to watch this show. So we could not be happier that you guys are doing that. If you have not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe to this page. So as we do this show, as we put out clips from the show, like yesterday, Rips was fantastic. I know they're already processing some clips from his interview. I'm sure Rake is going to be fantastic today as well. Looking forward to talking with him. So if you can't watch the whole stream every day, but you want to make sure you catch some of the highlights, make sure you subscribe to this channel and make sure you like this stream as well. It gives that algorithm a little boost, and it allows us to boost our message, which is, as you guys know, we've been very, very clear up front about how difficult trading is. I think Miriam put it very well yesterday when she said it's simple, but it's not easy. That's a message one of my mentors used to tell me as well. So thank you for being a part of the early stages of this show. We're looking forward to continuing to develop it, bringing in a bunch of guests as we have all the rest of this week, and continuing to bring you some of the best trading education on the interwebs. So we got a poll now in the chat. What is your market outlook for today? Bullish, bearish, or staying flat? So I'm going to vote in this right now. Miriam, I'm going to say bearish. Now, again, that's with a caveat. But I think what's the most likely thing to happen is we bounce off 550 and reject. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be pissed if we break out, because I think a break, retest, and go of the 550 level could be a real big money trade for the day.
I agree. You know me. I'm always the bear here. But it's interesting because I might say I'm bullish today. And part of that is just to go against what you're saying because
I was wondering
naturally.
about that.
But I don't know. I feel like bulls might surprise us today. I feel like that might happen. And to your point earlier, anything can and will happen in the market. And if that surprised you, anything surprised you, then you just haven't been trading long enough because
Mhm.
there have been days where, I look at the market and I'm like, huh, that's not what I thought was going to happen today. And again, that's not our point as traders. We have predictions, yes, but from my stance, right? I always like the downside move because it always pays better, in my opinion. The downside move, bulls take the stairs, bears take the window. Like that's just the general sentiment of the market.
Mhm.
And so for me, I always look for those contrarian trades, but I've had to realize over the years that it's important not to stick to one bias, right? Because then you
Mhm.
tend to miss out on these other moves, right? So for me, it's really important that, I'm not tethered to one particular feel of the market, but I'm also here's the thing. I'm trying to give bulls a chance because yesterday they kind of surprised us. So we'll see what happens today. I'm low key looking for this move to the downside. I would love the move to the downside because I've just been itching for it. Like I said, we did try to get it yesterday, but we didn't quite get there. So I'm rooting for you, bulls. Don't disappoint me. But at the same time, bears, you know what to do.
So are you saying that all you're saying is give bulls a chance? That was a Lennon song, right?
Is
I
that
may
right?
be missing a lyric or two in there, but I'm pretty sure that was a John Lennon song.
Okay, well, there you go. Starting you off music with music lyrics,
Well,
but
it just kind of goes to show because, and this is one of those things, Miriam, where to me, it's okay to have different bias on different time frames, or even to have a little bit of a bias. I don't want to say based on gut or intuition. We don't trade on gut, we don't trade on intuition, but based on your brain kind of recognizing what's going on and having a macro understanding of what's going on. So again, on the 4-hour chart, I you can't help but be bullish on this 4-hour chart, at least the way this candle is constructed, even with an hour and 10-minute left in this particular candle. Again, we're moving back into the prior zone of consolidation, breaking through the midpoint and testing the top. I mean, this is a classic bullish pattern. But again, considering how strong the resistance is there, considering that, I mean, the FOMC minutes are news, but unless there's a real shocker in there, which I think this happened like twice in my entire trading career where the market went, holy shit, like reacting to the Fed minutes. And most of that was during the COVID time when, the Fed was trying to figure out what the hell they were going to do during the early days of COVID. But outside of that, it's just a little bit. Again, I'm not going to use the term gut, not going to use the term intuition, just kind of having an understanding of where we are in the charts and where we are in the news and fundamental cycle. That I think the most likely scenario is we pull back a little bit here. But again, honestly, the biggest potential move in the coming days is not to the downside, it's to the upside. So while I think we pull it back a little bit, I am rooting for a breakout above the 600 level because I think we have 2 to 3 to 4 or 500 points of room above that, which if we break and hold above the 550 to the 600 level today, boy, Miriam, Thursday and Friday could be some really great bullish energy.
I agree. And I'll be here for it too. Listen, I can trade the upside as well. I don't necessarily have to take the downside and take shorts, but I think for me too, I'm looking at this level on ES. It's been a while on ES since we've seen the 6,000s, right?
Mhm.
We've been kind of stuck in this like 5,800 level for several months. And we're still a ways. We still have, about 70 points or so, still have a ways, but I think that's the magnet right now for bulls. I think when we try to push through this, I'm looking on ES here on the right side now. This is the 4-hour chart of ES. So we do still, like I said, we're still in the supply zone on ES until about 5960, 5950 area. Now, if we do push above that, next magnet and target is going to be that 6,000 level,
Mhm.
starting at 5990s, right? And then we have room above that up until, we have a supply zone, of course, but that's going to be the area that I think bulls will try to reach. And I call these psychological levels, not just because, they're areas where they're whole numbers. On Nasdaq, typically, you're looking at the 21,000. Every 100-point move on the Nasdaq is typically going to be a psychological level. On ES, that's going to be pretty much every 50 points or so. Whole numbers are even more stronger levels. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind that, these are the next areas to keep to have on as watch when you're looking at these bullish moves. So
Yeah, some great comments in the chat about intuition. And again, that's the wrong word. I understand what you guys are saying, and maybe we need to invent a word for this. But basically, one of the things that keep in mind, and this is why I always tell people the best place to start your technical analysis careers with candlesticks and candlesticks patterns. Sure, you can build in a lot of other things, right? You can build in TPO charts. I use some Renko charts. You can do market profile, etc. But there was a paper I read many years ago, and I've since looked for it, and I can't find it. Basically, it was a study of chess players. Okay, and the whole point behind this study was that our brains are remarkable pattern recognition machines, right? And so we'll be looking at a chart. This has happened to any of us that have traded for longer than 3 years. And I know we have some experienced traders in here, and we appreciate you being a part of the program. But sometimes you're just looking at something, the candlesticks or a pattern or in relation to support or resistance or whatever. And you're just like, I'm not seeing this right now. I'm not buying the action that's going on, literally or figuratively, right? And so you get into these situations, and it's your subconscious, it's your brain saying, yeah, no, dude, we saw this last week, remember? And it broke down. But the study with chess players was basically determining what leads to successful outcomes in chess, what leads to winning games, et cetera, et cetera. And with a few outliers, right, your true savants, your true geniuses on the chessboard, in general, what was the biggest prediction of success at between two people sitting down squaring off was way more times than not, whoever won was the person who had played the most games in their life. What a shocker, right? They'd seen more scenarios, more patterns on the board, more moves, more counter moves, all of that. And their brains, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, develop, these patterns and analyze these patterns. And the same thing happens in trading. If you've only been trading for a year or two, to me, and I've talked to a lot of traders, I've worked with about 300 to 400 traders in one-on-one situations and thousands in live rooms over the years. Most of the traders I talk to, it's about that 3 to 3.5 year mark where they're just looking at the charts and things start to make a little more sense. And I don't really know a better way to describe it. Miriam, did you experience that at about that time in your career?
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually had this conversation yesterday with Rips. If you guys haven't watched that episode yet, go back and watch it. It was such a great interview. But we talked about it yesterday about, typically, he had mentioned that 5-year mark is really where, you start to become intuitive, not just intuitive, but like really understand the market, because you've seen different cycles, right? So for me, it's interesting because that 3-year mark was really when I started to become a little bit more understanding. But even now, I've been trading for a little over 5 years, but there's still stuff I'm constantly learning, and not just from, a pattern recognition standpoint, a technical aspect, but learning about the different markets. I mean, and now I can finally say that I've seen a good handful of markets. And of course, I know, Matt, you've been trading since the dinosaur ages, but we've seen different, I've seen different markets now, and I can say that, I feel good about, times where, I can feel that intuition, but also understand the pattern recognition aspect of it. And it's interesting you bring up chess too, because a lot of traders, and again, this kind of goes back to our stream yesterday, Rips is actually a poker player. So he talked about his experience as a poker player and being a trader, and how they both kind of intertwine with each other, and one of them kind of helped him become better at the other. And it's interesting because there's a lot of, negative connotation about trading being gambling. And it's interesting you bring up chess, because chess is actually the best way to describe trading, because when you talk about, poker, you don't necessarily know what your opponent's cards are. You can't see what they're being dealt. You're kind of going off probability alone. Whereas with trading, everyone sees the same thing. Everyone sees the same chart. You might have a different sentiment, you might have a different trading style than someone else, but it's all out there, right? There's nothing hidden. Market makers can try to play here and there, but it's one of those where chess is a very interesting game to kind of describe trading as. So that's just something I kind of wanted to point out. But yeah, if you guys haven't watched that episode, it was a really great interview with Rips. And like I said, I'm excited for this week because we have a lot of guests, and I know you guys are excited for Rake to jump on, as we are as well. So if you have any questions, get them ready to ask Rake, because we want to hear from you guys, and I know Rake's gonna want to hear from you guys too. So get those ready. Don't put them in yet. Just have them in your back burner for now.
Absolutely. And I just kind of catching up in the chat, and Leah asks if you think we're done with these 1 to 200 point candles on the NQ or the MNQ. I don't. Now, I mean, keep in mind those candles come on the heels of major tariff news, right? Whether it's something that's announced overnight or over the weekend or in the middle of the damn day, as we've seen plenty of times, right? So no, I think we are clearly, I'm not even sure we're halfway through this tariff mess yet, because it's, it just seems to go back and forth on any given week, and it seems to be Trump's favorite word. And so I don't think we're done with those. I think this is going to be the new normal for a little while. I don't think, this could be a famous stream to revisit. I don't think like his whole term we're going to be dealing with this, but clearly this first year, and again, not to, for better, for worse, for whatever, this is not where we inject our personal opinions, but the bottom line is this is something that he has really chosen to focus on, at least in his first 6 months to a year. And so, no, I don't think the chaos is anywhere near done. And we'll just kind of see what happens. And probably the first major country to make a deal, I know there was like a deal with the UK or something, but I'm talking like major deal with China. That's certainly the big one. Major deals with Canada and or Mexico. Those are going to be the tipping points. Those are going to be the ones, once at least one of those is done, I think the dominoes will fall, and I think we'll get back to some semblance of normal, whatever that means in the markets. But I don't think that's anytime soon. I think the sell in May, go away crowd is going to be very disappointed. But in terms of an old quote, buckle up, Buttercup. I think this summer is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. We're definitely, I agree with you. I don't think we're done here. Markets have kind of felt a little bit less chaotic in the last week or so. But I kind of mentioned this too. I mean, we've kind of gotten used to chaos, right? Like for me, it's going into this year, you're either making it out as a trader, you're kind of struggling because you have to be extra patient with these sort of moves, and it gets frustrating as a trader when you see these massive moves on lower time frames, right? Even for me, I trade on the 5 and 2 minutes. So when you're seeing these 100-point moves on even as low as the 1 minute, I know Nick, he's not here with us today, of course, but he trades on the 1 minute, and he's experienced the same thing. And it's frustrating as a trader because you can get stopped out, and it can come and run up and do exactly what you had anticipated for it to do, and it becomes a mental battle at that point to try to get yourself out of that tilt, right, and prevent yourself from being frustrated because you had the right thesis, it just didn't work out for you in that moment, and typically it would have, right? So that's why I always say it's really important to not just be agile in markets like this, but understand, like, if days like this aren't working, maybe there's something you need to refine. Maybe there are certain days you just don't need to trade. Maybe there are certain times that don't work for you. And the great thing about Tradeify too is we have a built-in journal that you guys can use to address these matters, to look at your patterns, to see where you are that you are struggling. For me, the longest time was I didn't trade on Mondays. Mondays were not good days for me to trade. I don't know if it was I was just too excited coming out of the weekend, so I would be just like eager to take a trade. But for me, it was realizing like, all right, Mondays I either just don't trade or I just need to take it really easy, because I can't get too excited going into these trades and building these bad habits that I've worked so hard to break. So it's really good to utilize the journal and like I said, look at your patterns. Matt, did you have any sort of these sort of patterns that you had to break when you were first starting out? What was your issue?
Oh yeah, chasing was mine. Chasing was mine. And when I started as a small cap swing trader, like I said, it's I was that idiot buying things up 70-80% on the day. So that was something that I struggled with dramatically. And I think I'm glad I sort of tamed that dragon before I got into futures, because I think it's even more tempting in futures. So one of the reasons I always keep an ATR on my chart, and I use it for, as kind of a basic volatility indicator, range indicator, etc. But in some situations, it can help keep me out of trades I'm chasing. For example, if our 5-minute ATR is 20, I want to get long on a candle, and the candle's already 30 handles wide. Statistically speaking, unless there was some sort of catalyst behind it, we're due for a little bit of a pullback. So that will help me, if I'm still interested in the trade, get a better entry. Before we bring Rakes on here, though, I do want to take just a minute and go through kind of a quick 4-hour breakdown of some of our major assets. We've already talked a lot about the NQ. ES is in a pretty similar position here, guys, but the ES has not quite got back up to the highs that we basically saw. Let's see, 590. 59.93.50 here is the high of this candle back on Monday the 19th. So I think the analysis here is actually pretty simple, Miriam. It's 6,000, right? Like 6,000 is this area that we need to break through. And sometimes, we can look at a lot of fancy indicators and all that. Sometimes a level like this, or like a 1,000 level on the NQ, especially as we were playing around with 20K for quite some time, both on the upswing and the downswing. Don't overthink some of these levels, guys. Some of these levels are just, they're there for a reason, and big numbers like 6,000. Again, we didn't test it per se, but we got pretty close to it, and that's clearly an area that's going to have to fall if we're going to be if we're going to get a line here. If we're going to be breaking out to the upside on the ES. Any thoughts on the ES chart here, Mary?
Yeah, I mean, that's also sitting at an area of supply. I mean, when we look at a bigger time frame here, it's a very significant level. And I mean, if you look at like all-time highs on the ES, I mean, we really got all the way up to the 5165 area. So I mean this wholeheartedly. Like, we have room to the upside if we can find conviction above that 6,000 level on ES, and I guess on NASDAQ that would be the 22,000 area as well. We do have room up to those to test those highs. And I'm looking at the weekly chart here. Sorry if my candles look all crazy. But this is that area. This is that area. This is the weekly chart of the ES on the right. 6166.50 is all-time highs on the S&P futures. So it's going to be an interesting next couple months. I mean, definitely expect some chaos here, but I mean, we can absolutely see a break of these highs, and who knows, it's kind of like BFE from there, right? We don't have anywhere to go. I mean, we have so much places to go, but we don't have any levels to really necessarily trade here. That's actually something that I wanted to ask you too, Matt. When you were, you've traded obviously all-time highs as we have as well, in the 2022 bull market we had, or I'm sorry, the 2023 bull market, and we had, moves to this upside, and we had massive all-time highs. How did you trade those? Like, how did you know, where price was going to go? Like, did you use Fibonacci's? Did you use kind of just intuition in a sense? How did you know how to trade those sort of markets?
Well, I'll go back even further. I'll go back to the COVID crash and the subsequent very, very sharp rebound. And honestly, it wasn't a thing of overthinking anything. It was just buy the dip. Like, I mean, the number of YouTube channels that sprung up in 2020 and 2021 that have basically been idle since mid 2021 would astound you if you'd seen them. We're kind of getting back to that boom era now of people coming out and creating channels, et cetera. But it was just buy the dip. It was, honestly, the technicals took a back seat. It was, once we got through that initial COVID crash and we rebounded within a month and a half, basically. And it was just, it was, I remember the summer of 2020, it was more common we made more new all-time highs than we did on days, right? Like, it was just, there were days 7 out of 8 9 out of 12, 15, I think 15 out of 18 at one point where we're making new all-time highs. So there wasn't overthinking it. It was anytime there was a pullback, you bought and you got in. Now, yes, it became a little more nuanced to do that as we progressed into 2021 and 2022. But honestly, that mentality was so ingrained at that point that it wasn't. I mean, I was just loading options every single time. I mean, I was doing futures, but obviously day trading, I'm not as worried about the longer term outcome. But gosh, I think one time we got a 2-day pullback, and it was like the option traders on YouTube were going on tilt left and right because they didn't know how to process a second red day. Right? It was like, oh my God, how do we do this? But yeah, although the bad news was the call premiums were just insane back then. I mean, you could make money, but it was a lot of that was priced in. So yeah, it really was. I'd love to tell you there was some complicated strategy, or I'd love to tell you there was this great indicator that no, it was buy the dip, and I said through that time at the places I was working at that listen, don't overthink this. Is it going to last forever? No. But it's going to keep going until it doesn't. And that could be months more. And it was. So yeah, we've gotten into an era over about the past, I would say 9 to 10 calendar months where trading skill matters again. Honestly, Miriam, there was a time, probably right about the time you were getting started, but probably before you were starting to get pretty consistently profitable, where honestly, you didn't need a whole lot of skills to be successful. Now you do, to make the trade you did yesterday, or to, make some of the, there's a lot more skill behind trading these markets than there is. Before we I know we're running up against it here, so I just want to do a quick analysis here on the 4 hour of the GC and the CL, because I know we do got some gold and oil traders in here. I'm not a huge trend line guy. I know you and Nick are very big on trend lines and breakouts, and it's just not something I use a ton of, but boy, you can't help but draw trend lines on this 4 hour chart of the GC. We're coming to
those are some nice looking trend lines, I will say.
Oh man, that's like I'm whistling across the room at these trend lines, like, hey, you're pretty
Cat
straight
calling.
there. Yeah,
Look at that trend line.
Okay, I'm gonna take this before it goes off the rails, because the comment section.
We're gonna really get us suspended on this if we push it too far.
Our chat's thirsty enough. I don't think. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see, and this is another reason why I know we're not in the environment anymore, guys, where markets go down, gold goes up, and vice versa. But in general, that's still the macro relationship between the two. So if we start heading back up to the 3340 level, that's going to be an area to watch. If we start breaking out above this trend line, or especially if we make a higher high in the coming days above 3370, that would kind of be a little bit of a confirmed breakout above this trend line. That's going to be just another indicator that equities may need a little bit of a pullback. But again, as we've seen since COVID, there's times where gold's making new all-time highs, and so are equities. That's sort of when the relationship got busted a little bit. And oil, guys, oil's not been the best trader the last couple of months. It really hasn't. I don't trade a ton of oil, but I'm used to taking 3 to 5 oil trades maybe per month. I can tell you right now, I have not taken one since we've been in this zone. It's just it's really not something I'm paying a ton of attention to right now. Breakout above 65 or break down below 55. I'll be very interested in that, but it's a $10 range on this, which is pretty wide. All I know is, Miriam, this oil has been going consistently down for weeks and months now, and I haven't seen that reflected at the gas pump. So that kind of pisses me off a little bit, but it is what it is. I mean, you're out in California, gas is what, like $18 a gallon out there?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like an arm and a leg just to, get to point A.
Yeah, exactly. But as always, guys, we will pay a little special attention to the indexes today. And I think we are getting really excited to bring Rake on here in a few minutes. I think we're loading him up in the background.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll kind of figure it out. So guys, like Miriam said, make sure you get your questions ready, and we will see how things go. So we are now, let's see, about 20 minutes to the open. We talked a little bit about pre-market routines in our first couple of shows. But just in general, Miriam, before you started doing this show, you're 20 minutes to the New York Open. It's what is it? It's 6:10, 6:11 out there on the West Coast. Like, what is your last 10, 15, 20 minutes into the markets look like?
For me, it's really just looking at the pre-market, kind of analyzing what's going on. If there's news that we can anticipate, typically around the 5:30 time, West Coast is going to be where, some of the pre-market news comes out. And so I'll be looking at that. Obviously, today we didn't have any news, but a lot of what I look at is analyzing what happened in the pre-market, and that's
Mhm.
kind of how I gather the data that I need in order to create a trade, and create a thesis for how I'm going to trade the day. Right now, like I said, it's kind of, we're not really doing too much. We're still kind of in this like really tight range, and on ES and Nasdaq, we're still in this supply zone. So for me, yes, I do like this pre-market range that we're in, but at the same time, I want to see how we're going to do in the first 15 minutes. On days like this that, I don't have too much conviction on the market or on the day, I am going to wait and probably hold off until that first 15 minutes unless, we start to get this breakdown of these trend lines. And another thing I do like to look at is how related, or I guess how in sync ES and NASDAQ are with each other.
Mhm.
I like to look at, I don't like to see that ES is pushing, to the upside and NASDAQ's just kind of like lagging. That's not the kind of price action I like to trade. I like to see that both futures are moving in conjunction with each other. And the reason for that is because they share a lot of the same stocks, right? The NASDAQ is obviously very tech heavy, and ES is the top 500 companies. So I look at how they are moving in relation to each other. Are they fluid? Is one lagging? I noticed this. This actually happened a couple days ago, where ES was very much struggling to make the upside, and Nasdaq was just pushing. And so
Mhm.
for me, I was actually waiting on a break. I was looking for to trade ES to the downside to see if Nasdaq was going to follow. And so for me, I actually got a really nice break of a trend line on that day. And so it's good to see where they are in conjunction with each other. I looked at ES heavily when I was trading. Well, I still do. When I trade SPX as options, I started off as an options trader. So for me, I was trading a lot of SPX, and SPX, if anyone knows, is it follows the ES very closely. So there's no price. You can't actually trade shares of SPX, but the contracts move beautifully. So, it's one of those where a lot of people have made a lot of money trading SPX, and it's something that I also observe when I'm trading futures. So I kind
Mhm.
of watch NASDAQ, ES, and SPX as I'm trading each other. So it's one of those where I always have all three charts open. I have the VIX open as well, just to kind of, analyze the VIX a little bit and make sure that we're not, hitting some major points. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I look for in the pre-market to create my thesis. And so I know as a small caps trader, I actually don't know what's worth trading SPX or small caps. I think small caps might be a little bit more
Oh, it's
psychotic.
infinitely worth trading small caps. I can tell you that, because there's nothing like doing your full due diligence on a company and seeing, okay, they've got enough. Small caps, you're always looking for cash on hand, right, and make sure they have enough to at least last a few months. I mean, there's your swing trading 3 to 5 days. There's nothing, and this happens, both long and short and all that kind of stuff. But there's nothing more frustrating doing all your due diligence, getting into a trade maybe with like an hour left to go in the trading day, and getting up maybe 10-15 cents. So you're up a few $100, and you're waiting, you're anticipating a gap up the next day, which sometimes happens. Or then after the markets, they drop a shelf or an offering, and all of a sudden you're up 18-20 cents. It opens down 80 cents the next day, or a dollar, and $500-600 wins turn into $3,000-4,000 losers overnight. So it's a I mean, I see it in the Chill Guy says SPX options are crack cocaine. If SPX options are crack cocaine, like, I think I'm trying to think of the comparison. Small caps are probably
Worse
just
than
like direct.
crack.
They're directly fentanyl. They'll just kill you. That's just
Oh
all there is
God.
to it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of options traders, started trading futures because, with options and with equities in general, for the most part, you can't you if you're in a cash account, you have to wait.
Mhm.
before you can actually trade again, unless you have enough funds to trade with. So, a lot of times once you take a trade, or once you take a couple of trades, you have to wait for them to settle. Whereas with futures, it's settled automatically. So you can trade as
Okay.
much as you want, as long as you have the capital and you haven't obviously blown your account. But that's, I think, one of the appeals to trading futures. And obviously, the fact that futures is, almost open 24/7. You can trade it essentially anytime. It's a lot more fitting to people's schedules. So I've seen a lot of options traders switch to trading futures, and apparently small cap traders too. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Miriam. So I believe we are ready to bring on our guest. Why don't you tell us who we're bringing
ooh,
on, and we'll rev it up here.
let's go. Let's get those likes up, guys, for Rake Trades. We are bringing him in. We're already at 10K subscribers, so hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure you get that like button. Get the hype in for Rake, for Jake. We're gonna pop off here in about a couple seconds. So make sure that you guys are in the chat. What's up,
There he is.
Rake? What is up?
Yo,
Welcome
thank
to
you
the
guys so much
stream.
for having me. I appreciate you. I'm very, very excited to be here. It's going to be a fun day.
We are
Absolutely. We're
excited
glad to have you.
We are
I've been
so
listening all morning, and I could not agree more. I think we're in a little bit of a unique where do we go from here situation. Hopefully the market offers us some nice opportunities. I'm looking forward to it.
We're super excited to get your analysis and dive right in. Let us know. Hold on. First of all, we love this hairstyle going on, by the way.
Thank you. First time in my life that I've changed it up a little bit. It's a little crazy, but yeah.
I see the natural curls coming out.
Recently going with the natural curls. It's a new look for me, but I've been enjoying it. Thank you. That was a very nice compliment.
We love it. We are missing Nick today, so I'm glad that you can kind of take the place for the nice hair. And we're all wearing the white tees.
Attacked right now. I just want to say this. I just want to get that. No, I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, the chat's got jokes already, so I appreciate you just teeing the chat up like that, Miriam. That's that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I love the chat. I won't. Once the market opens, I won't be reading the chat much, just because I'll be laser focused. But I will say this, chat, I love you very, very much. You know that. Even those of you who don't love me, I love you. So I appreciate all of you guys.
So before we get into the open here, Rakes, for those that obviously almost everybody in the chat knows you and knows your knows your style and all that, but give us a little bit of background, just a couple minutes. Like, how did you get into trading, and kind of what's your favorite tickers?
For sure. I got into trading, I think probably like many of you on here right now. I saw a Instagram post and I was like, ooh, I can make money from my phone. So then I lost all my money for like 3 years. I was listening to you guys have that conversation earlier. The timeline thing is something I'm very, very big on as someone who's experienced that. I lost all my money for several years and then eventually started to not lose, which was a phase in and of itself. And then I figured out that I really like large moves, and I kind of found my style in the way that I trade, which is the large full move. I like to catch a larger move. My win rate is lower. I hover around 40-50%. You might see me take a trade today and take a loss. And in my mind, that's just Wednesday. That's no problem. That's what I do. It's part of life. I know the way that I trade, it'll always work out over time. So I am very big on R to R and very big on big winners. So in the NASDAQ, for example, which is my toxic relationship that I probably trade too much, I like 100 points as like a baseline. And I'm not saying I would never take anything that's less, just the way that I like to trade. I know that in order for me to find an entry in the NASDAQ, usually that's going to cost me about 30-40 points of risk in order to actually give it the room that I need to. So if I know that my win rate is around 40-50%, then I know that I need to be making about 100 points on my winners to kind of offset the losers. So I'm very big on math. I think math rules the world. And I like to catch large trending moves. So I think there's a chance we get one today. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth because the market moved a lot yesterday. And whenever the market moves a lot a previous day, there's a very valid reason to kind of stall and range and range for the day, kind of go sideways, develop a little bit of a base. So I'm wondering if we get that range today. But sometimes the market is in parabolic mode, like I call it. It stops for no one. So I am keeping my eyes peeled, mainly at same area you guys were talking to. The key level for me on the NASDAQ is 21,531. If that level, if we can put a trend in above that level, I don't really see what's stopping us from another 100 points or something like that. So that's the area I'll be watching today. But on a broader note, the way that I trade, generally speaking, is I like big trades. I like big moves. I struggle when I take a trade and then I like close it and it goes without me. I don't like that. So I've tried to kind of tailored my strategy a little bit to catching the larger moves, right? Which naturally comes along with taking some losses along the way. But sorry, that was a very ranted, long-winded answer, which I
we love it.
Doing sometimes.
We love it.
We're not short form on this show. We want to dig into stuff like that. If I've said if somebody's looking for just a cheap soundbite, this ain't the program for them. We're trying to dive a little deeper. So as we go in 8 minutes to the New York Open, take me through kind of your last 10 minutes as you're prepping for the Open. First of all, let me ask you, do you trade outside of the New York session, or do you keep it in where the liquidity is?
Yeah, I don't mind trading out of the New York session if I want something specific to happen. So like today, one of the things that I really like when I have a level and we open in specific relation to that level. So like today, I thought there was a chance that we opened above 531, right? Mm-hmm. If we do that, then all of a sudden this is a dramatically different chart to me. All of a sudden it's something where I'm like, oh, like that looks really very good, right? Now that we're not as much gonna open above that, the other area that is kind of on the cards for me is this 436, I believe. Yeah, no, we don't have to get down here, but I think it's a very real possibility that we do. I wouldn't personally, I'm not interested in shorting for this move. I'm just looking at like how much meat is on the bone, I call it. I don't know that there's enough for me to find an entry that has the stop that I would want and then subsequently make it all. Like, I just don't know if the math works, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm very big on the areas I'm watching and the levels, and I like those to be tested. So now my thought process is kind of like, okay, this green one will move wherever we open up on the day. And the opening price, the first price that traded that day, that's where this green line will go. But from there, I'm going to be like, okay, where are we going to test first? Right, are we going to start to give me an indication that we're coming down to this 436? Are we going to give me an indication that we're going to get above this 531? Right? Whatever the case may be, I'll look for some sort of reaction that I can use off one of those reference points, right? That's really big to me, is I like having a reference point so I can kind of make a decision based off how we're reacting to one of those levels, right? So right now, just kind of sitting and waiting patiently. What you are seeing on my screen here is my Tradeify live account. So I'm excited to talk about that today as well. Just because that has been a bit of a journey for me. And I think that I had a really good conversation with, God, I feel bad, I'm forgetting his name, but the psychology coach Tradeify has.
Coach Tank.
Yeah. We had an awesome conversation that I thought was really unique. About approaching trading, it was a really good conversation. So I'm excited to dive into that a little bit. But what you're seeing on my screen is my Tradeify live account. So hopefully we can take a trade in there together today. You know,
we're excited. And, we're looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah. For reference, this account is in some drawdown, and again, big on math here. So in order for me to, and we'll talk about this when we talk about my conversation I had with him, but you'll see me, the size on here will be a little bit smaller. I usually trade about 5 micros on this one just because that's what I have to do in order to keep the drawdown math making sense, right? I can't emphasize how big I am on math.
I've said for years, Rake.
Say again?
I've said for years that having a very basic, like 101 level understanding of probability, statistics, standard deviation, things like that is essential for a trader. And we were just talking on the show a couple days ago about, and I love what you talk about with your winning percentage and all that, because there's no wrong winning percentage in this business as long as your risk to reward ratio backs it up. And I've said for every trader, tell me your average winner, your average loser, and your winning percentage. And right there, that just knowing those three numbers is good enough to at least start analyzing your trading and seeing where things can go right and where things can go wrong. So I'm really happy to hear you talk about that, because that's something I've been preaching for quite some time.
100%, man. It's funny because you hear people talk about win rates sometimes. They're like, my strategy has an XXX win rate. I'm like, that's cool. When you lose, how much do you lose though? Because if you're winning 90% of the time, but your average winners are 8/10 of the size of your losers, it's not, the math won't work. Like the math is not as favorable as you might think. So I couldn't agree more. I think it's a very important perspective to have, because at the end of the day, everything in trading comes down to probabilities. Everything in life comes down to standard deviations, bell curves, falling inside that curve or outside that curve. So no, I couldn't agree more. No, it's always refreshing to talk to people who know that,
Awesome. Do you feel like you've always traded in that sort of math lens or mathematical lens, or have you kind of adapted to trading in that way?
I mean, I think the first 2 years, I don't really know I don't really think I had a plan. The first 2 years, I don't really think I understood that. Even if people tell you that, like I had bought courses and stuff, and I had listened to educators tell me, pay attention to your R to R and do this and do that. And I was like, I want to make money, like that stuff doesn't really matter. So I think I ignored it for a while. And then I think I came to kind of the realization that I do believe most or all traders will come to at some point, that eventually you'll realize you're like, oh no, like the entire way that this works is if I understand that stuff. Like this, it doesn't work without that, right? Like I think eventually all traders will realize that like, you really can't make progress unless you know your math, and it's not crazy math. We're not asking you to do trigonometry or equations that you have to solve. It's like, no, okay, like how often are you winning? And when you win, how much do you win? And when you lose, how much do you lose? And let's say you have an average day, how much do you lose on that day? And how much do you win on the average winning days? In order for this whole thing to work, it's predicated on the fact that you understand those numbers. Right. So I think that I definitely didn't start like that. But that was one of the realizations that I made. And also one of the realizations that I think every trader will make on their journey, if they do become successful to me, is that you got to understand your numbers. Otherwise, you're just, for lack of a better term, you're throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. And most of the time, it's not going to stick,
Absolutely.
Well, it also shows me that you talked about, it seems to be, and I kind of came through a different path to end up on this show is kind of you did on your stream, but I've always immediately, maybe sounds harsh, but I've always immediately dismissed anyone who refuses to talk about their first year or two of trading and the struggles that they may have had, because honestly, maybe there's a trader out there that figured it out from day one. I have yet to meet that person, and I've been all over the country at various events. So somebody coming out and immediately saying, "Yeah, I was shit for my first couple years," that's how I know they're legit with what they're doing now, because you have to go through that to appreciate the journey. And the prop firms in general, especially Tradeify, are a huge net positive for traders, but at the same time, they can create some mental traps for traders, not on the fault of the firms, but on the fault of the trader. And this, like you said, everyone's saying, well, I bought my very first eval today, I'm going to be a millionaire by the end of the year. Well, probably not. So, to go through that work and go through those struggles and process and overcome and deal with the emotional trauma that comes from just the market just handing your ass to you every single day, like it does with all of us when we start. It's such an exercise in yes, it's math, it's all the stuff you talked about, but it's also just this huge exercise in mental toughness to just kind of overcome and say, you know what, F it, I'm gonna do this right. And that's how you then come to things like you were talking about, the math, the risk reward, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy to hear that come from you. Now, so we just got through the open here. We are about 1 minute into the open. So talk us through what you're seeing and what you're looking for here, Rex.
Yeah. Oops, sorry, it was me. For me personally, sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off there.
No, go ahead.
This green line is the first thing that I'm watching. So that is the opening print on the day. That was the first first price that the NASDAQ or any asset you're looking at traded. So on a 1 minute candle, it's the open. On a 5 minute candle, it's the open. It's just the open, right? That's what I'm paying the most initial attention to. I would like to see, are we going to hold that area? Are we going to start to trend under it? And that will kind of give me some insight into where we may go next, right? If we continuously hold the open and maybe even offer me a setup off of it, that would kind of give me the early signs that we're going to go up towards this 531s. If we start to fail it, if we start to trend lower, I would be looking at this 436s as the next spot of logic.
Awesome. And are you looking at volume at all? Like what other sort of indicators do you use? Are you strictly price action, support resistance?
Price action, support resistance. I don't use volume at all. I don't even have it on my charts. Not that there, again, trading is so whatever works for you that you have to kind of like find your own what works for you. But what I've found is that volume, I struggle to interpret like, oh, is that buyers? Is that sellers? To me, it just kind of looks like volume, right? So when I'm not good at it, I don't try to force it in.
Absolutely.
I normally don't trade this quick. I think there's a potential that the market might run away today. So because of that, I'm going to go long and just put a stop underneath these lows. It's a very small micros position for me. As I mentioned, I'm in some drawdown overall with this account, so I literally have to. But I'm taking this with the expectation that I will probably get stopped out on it. But in the event that I don't get stopped out, I think there's a potential that we could move above this 531s in a rapid manner. Again, I don't normally trade this early into it, but we've given these failures at the opening print. I'm going to try, and I'm going to be risking about, I don't know, 30-ish points, not even, somewhere in that realm. But the idea of me going long here is the next level above for us is at 626. So if it does hold, which again, I'm operating under the assumption that we won't, in the theory that we might, right? If that happens, I'd be looking to make 4 or more of what I'm risking. That's worth getting out of bed for me. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like if I have a potential to make 4 or more of what I'm risking, that's worth me getting out of bed. So I'm gonna try it.
And do you trade on the 1 minute? Is that what I see?
I use all of them. So what you are seeing on this screen is, generally speaking, just one of the time frames I'm switching between, a 5, a 2, a 1. What you're not seeing on my other screens, simply due to lack of space, is I am watching about 10 different time frames on the NASDAQ right now. I have the daily up. I have the daily with extended hours. I have it without extended hours. I have the 2 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute, 15 minute with extended hours, 15 minute without extended hours. I have the hourly with extended hours, the hourly without extended hours. Oh, I am a time frame freak. I believe that all the information you need is putting itself in these various little time frames. So I'm watching them all. Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine how many monitors or screens that you have currently sitting at your desk right now, but I imagine
I actually just have one big one and then a second little stream one. So the stream on the side here is just so I know what's on screen, what's being shared, all that. Then I just got like one 49-inch, but I'm watching small little charts of the NASDAQ on different time frames.
I love it. Well, give it up for Rake right now. We are in a position long MNQ at 516.50. So we'll see how this plays out. All the best to you. We're rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see how it shapes up. I would feel a lot better if we get above this 531s. It would just it's offering. But the way that first 5-minute bar of the day closed is great. We can deal with that. This second 5-minute candle of the day in a dream world acts as what I call and kind of known as a pause bar. It'll act as like a rest bar for us, and maybe 1, 2, 3. So the next candle, what I would be looking for. Terrible with trading view. The next candle, what I'm looking for, assuming this one kind of closes red with a small little tail like this, I'll be looking for the next one to kind of break up and go higher like that, right? So we'll see. Again, every trade I enter, I operate under the assumption that I'm going to get stopped out, and that's fine. And I think that's the way that everybody should operate. Because I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Maybe you have a super high win rate and stuff like that, but it also just helps mentally when you're like, hey, when you expect less, it's a lot easier to deal with it when it doesn't go your way. So that's something that's important to me. Is I
hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Absolutely.
One thing I take pride in is whether I'm winning or losing, generally speaking, my face is going to be the same. My emotions are going to be the same because I've been around the block for a while. Guess what? When you have a big winner, you get a little excited about it and you get a little hyped up, the market loves to take it away from you on your next trade. It's like one of those unwritten laws that no matter what you could do, it doesn't really matter.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things as a trader. Like, it's not supposed to be this exciting, like adrenaline rush all the time. Like the more calm you can make yourself, the less surprised you'll be when things happen, and just more collected you can be as a trader. So I love that you mentioned that. And maybe I should keep talking because we're trying to push to the upside here.
Yeah, no, we're sitting pretty. And what I like is if we can get above this 531s, the path is very clear. So in a dream world, I'd like us to kind of push above that and these overnight highs, and then just maybe consolidate a tiny little bit, maybe offer some sort of smaller time frame new entry. But above the 531s, this picture becomes much clearer for me, and I feel great. So now my only concern is, of course, for every trade you take, there's somebody on the opposite side thinking the other thing. And neither of you are right nor wrong. It's just two traders that are looking at other directions, right? So if I was someone who was looking for a bearish rejection, if I was someone that was thinking, hey, this daily chart's going to fail, we're going to reverse to the downside, what would that include? Well, it would include probably a rejection of this 531, right? So while I'm happy and excited that I could see the path for us to clear out over it, I'm also cognizant and aware that if we fail it, that's probably where I will be blatantly wrong on this idea, and I'll have to adjust. So
absolutely. Awesome. We'll give it up for Rake right now. W's in the chat right now. Put that like button up as well. We're actually going to be giving a giveaway out in about less than 10 minutes. So we're doing a giveaway, guys. So hype up the chat. We got Rake in the house. What's up? Come on.
We got a giveaway for a couple people, and we got dropping some great knowledge for everybody, and that's free. So we definitely appreciate y'all tuning in. So Rake, for a trade that goes your way, and I actually like the way you were talking about with preparing always for a loss. And that's actually something I've talked about for years. One of the questions you have to ask yourself before you enter a trade is, am I ready to lose on this one? Because if you're not, don't take the trade, because every trade can be a winner, every trade can be a loser. But for the trades that are winners for you, what's your average hold time on those? If you're going for 100 points, you're holding for quite a bit of time throughout the day.
Yeah. I usually hold anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. I'm open. So whatever I believe that the market moves.
There's that breakout for you.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, this is looking good. We're sitting pretty. So right now we're sitting at about a 1.5 R, which is good. I'd like to get that up to about a 2.5 and then maybe consider reducing risk a little bit. But this is really nice clearance over 531s. I mean, if all goes well, I do not see why 626 is an irrational target. So my average hold times are long. I'm a firm believer. I'm sorry, before I go off on that, let me just make one little side tangent. A minute ago, I said something along the lines of if you were on the other side of this trade, you would be looking for a rejection of that 531. Same idea for me is true of this little overnight high right here. If I was a bear and I was thinking that we were going to go down today, that's another area I'd be looking to fake breakout, to fail, right? So I'm now kind of keeping my eye on this. If we get back under there, it's probably not a great sign. So I'm just keeping myself aware of that. But yeah, I like to hold my trades and I like big winners. I've found that one of the things that I think is really important as a trader, and it's really, really key, and it arguably the most important thing you'll do, is you have to figure out what puts you on tilt, right? Because like at the end of the day, most of you out there, including myself, we don't really struggle with the making of money. We struggle with losing it, giving it back on tilt, right? Like we're not losing it, but giving it back. Like we struggle with making it and then subsequently having a day where we can't control our emotions and giving it back and all that, right? And if that is something we know, then the best thing that you can do is put yourself in a situation where you avoid those situations, right? Try and create an environment where you avoid those situations. So what puts me on tilt more than anything is watching a chart happen and make a move without me, right? So like, let's say for right now, for example, right? This trade that's up, what is that, 30, 40 points, right? That's nice, that's good. But let's just say hypothetically, this comes back down and stops me out at even or whatever, right? Not trying to use bad words. I could not care. I could not give a X. Who cares? I don't care. That's going to happen. That's part of life. At the moment, the math for me still makes sense to try and hold it for this upper level. I won't go on tilt if this comes back and takes me out at even or even at a loss, right? What would put me on tilt, what would absolutely positively put me in a situation where I'd be making some dumb decisions is, let's say this candle here that starts to go red. Maybe you have that thought in your head. Oh man, I don't really like this. I don't really want to lose this profit. I just okay, I'm going to sell. And then I sell, and then 5 minutes later I watch this chart make the move without me. That is what would put me on tilt. That is what I struggle with, because I don't like seeing charts make a move that I thought they were going to make, and I'm not in there. I'd rather lose than not be in there, right? I'd rather swing my shot and shoot. And I think a lot of that confidence comes from the understanding and idea that, like, hey, most of the time as traders, we have the right idea from an analysis perspective. That's usually not the problem. Most of you out there could probably point at a chart and be like, I think we're going to go here today. And I would guess that a lot of the time you're right. The problem is the details in between, where you have to get an entry, and then while you have that entry, you have to manage, and things can happen. And that's where we struggle, right? So my theory is, once I take a trade, as long as the chart is still telling me to hold, I want to give it its fair shake, right? I want to give it its fair shake, because I know what would make me make bad decisions is if I exit that trade early and then it goes without me. That is the bad decision for me. That's what I want to avoid, right? I could not care less if we come back and stop me out at even or stop me out of this. I would be very upset, though, if I close this trade in profit right now and then it subsequently moved without me after. So I think it's really important as a trader to find, okay, like what makes you tick? What puts you on tilt, right? What is the thing that kind of puts you in that position? And once you've identified it, kind of curate your environment so that that doesn't happen to you, right? As much as you can. You'll never be able to fully control it, but curate your environment to a level in which you can control, where you don't end up going on tilt.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we were just informed behind the scenes here, Rakes, though, that this isn't a G-rated stream. You're allowed to swear. We have Brett on here at least a couple of times a week, so you can drop as many as you like. But I love what you just said there, because it's something that I've preached for years. I know some of the people I learned from. It's knowing yourself as a trader and knowing what sets you off. Like for instance, for me, I'm actually a little different than you in that regard. For me, a trade that's very green and then comes out and stops me out for, I don't care if I stop out break even. But if I stop out for a loss, so let's say I'm sitting there with $1,100, $1,200 and I end up taking a $500 loss on that, that's what fucks with me. That's what gets in my head. The way that I've overcome that is I scale out a little bit. So if I'm 10 to 15 micros, I'll take 10 of them off for a nice profit. And if the last 5 come and stop break even, or even for a tiny loss, I have zero problem with that. But if I'm sure I cost myself some bigger winners occasionally on this, but especially in this calendar year with the craziness, I got to see profit, take profit. And it just goes to show you guys here, I just, you're looking at 3 people on the screen who all are profitable traders, who all do things a little differently. And it just goes to show, hammer the point we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. Guys, there's a million ways to make money in the markets. They're all just kind of hard to find, right? And once you kind of settle in, you know yourself as a trader. As Rake said, make sure your math is mathing, and make sure you have your trading sight game on point. And guys, those are the three pillars. You do that, and you're going to be successful. But yes, all of us here that are on screen right now, we struggled in our first year or two, and that's okay. You're going to do that, but you need the screen time, you need the reps, and you need to find out who you are as a trader.
Absolutely.
One thing I love, just to add on real quick to piggyback on one thing you said about the timeline. The most common way that people talk about the timeline is they compare it to that of like a doctor, lawyer, or whatever, right? They're like our college education. They're like, you need 3, 4, 5 years, and that's the same timeline as like a doctor or lawyer or a college degree and all that. And for most people, including myself, you hear that for the first time and you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then you start trading a little bit more and you're like, no, that I'm special. I can make it faster, right? I can do it faster. I know how much work I'm putting in. I can achieve it faster. That's the way I felt. Even though I knew it takes doctors this long, it takes lawyers this long, it takes everyone that long. So the part that I just started to think about this the other day, and again, it kind of ties it back into math, right? All of you have heard the statistic, 5% of traders succeed, right? Like 95% fail, something like that, right? Is that the exact number? Who friggin' knows? I don't know. It's probably some variation of it, right? But as the market is pulling back into the opening print here, I'm going to watch to see if this ends up being something I want to get out of the way from or continue to hold. But kind of what we're testing that green opening line as we speak. One of the things that I think it's fascinating, right? Everyone's familiar with that statistic. That doesn't surprise anybody, right? And I think most people don't understand statistics. When you take something, as I'm probably about to eat a stop here, when you take something that's a low probability, like 5% odds of succeeding, right? When you take something that's a low probability and you add another low probability condition to it, right? It becomes like extremely difficult and extremely unlikely. All right, I ate my stop there of about 20 points. My gut tells me we'll see it reverse just after taking me out, but I'll wait patiently as I think I lost like a couple $100 there. This math important equation, this is really important to me. So sorry. When you take a condition, right, and you say, hey, I want to be a successful and profitable trader, right, which is something like a 5% odds of success. That's already very low, right? When you add another condition to that, like let's say that you want to become successful at trading in under 3 years, right? And that is another very, very small percentage of people that actually achieve that, right? Let's say that you want to achieve both those two things. You want to be a successful trader, which is a very small opportunity. And then you want to add the other condition that you achieve it in like 3 years, or whatever the case may be. You just took the overall odds of success and made them like minuscule. Because when you take a small condition, right, or something with a small probability, and you add another factor of another small probability, you multiply it exponentially. So all of a sudden, your chances of success go from 5% to like 0.25%. It's just a dramatically different equation, right? And so if the doctor, lawyer, 4-year, 5-year thing isn't doing it for you and isn't helping you understand it that sort of way, don't think about it like that. Think about it in terms of probabilities, where being successful at this is already a really, really low probability. being successful at this in a short timeline is like virtually impossible. It's the percentage odds of success there are like 0.25%, something so irrationally low that it's not even worth considering, truly.
Awesome. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you as you were speaking, because you were dropping some knowledge. Guys, I did take a short at that 510 level that we have on the NASDAQ. The reason I took this is because this is the bottom of that supply zone that we have. I do like that we were coming in with some volume here. So I am short at 510. I took 25 micros. I did take a piece off at yesterday's high. I'm holding the rest to this trend line. I want to see about 455, 460 area. And I'll take off a little bit more, and I'll keep some runners running in case we do end up getting some movement below this trend line. But I did just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that.
All right. So yeah, so we've got, and guys, you know, in the chat there, in any point on this show, if you're, I understand that, you know, like sometimes things happen, and we try to get trades to you as quickly as possible, and possibly even before we get in. And obviously that's not always the case, especially when we have a guest on. We want to make sure our guest has ample opportunity to talk to you guys and teach you guys and all that. But when it comes to specific trades, guys, and this is something that's important, because I see people in the chat talking about, you know, the rate getting stopped out and all that. Guys, listen, this is one of the best pieces of advice I got. You need to find who you are as a trader, and that's something we were just talking about. You know what? You're never going to be Rake. You're never going to be me. You're never going to be Miriam. You may have more success than all three of us combined. And as our viewers, I truly, truly wish that for you. But in any individual trade or you guys need to, you know, if you're, you know, following along, which of course, you know, we don't always advise doing if you're on a delay or a lag or anything like that. But at the same time, make sure you're managing your trades based on your individual trading methodology. And if you're saying, well, Matt, what does you mean by trading methodology? Like, so Rake just explained his entire trading methodology to you, is that he's going for bigger winners. He wants those 100-point wins, and he knows his risk reward needs to be in line, and he knows his winning percentage is going to be a little lower. I'm a lot different, right? I'm going for, you know, my winning percentage, I try to keep above 55%, and I'm going for a lot smaller winners. Guess what? We both make pretty good money in the markets. Miriam's style is different from us. Guess what? She makes pretty good money in the markets, right? So make sure you're understanding, like, don't say, well, I'm going to be just like Miriam, or I'm going to be just like Rake, or I'm going to be just like Matt. No, develop your own methodology, listen to kind of how we're talking through things, and go from there. But again, if you're just saying, well, how can you do this or that? Well, if that's not something, I just explained, I can't let winners turn into losers. That's something I struggle with. And it costs me some big winners occasionally. But for me, the mental trauma that comes from seeing a, you know, $700, $800, $900 winner turn into a $500 loser, that messes me up for the day. That's when I overtrade. That's when I revenge trade. That's when I feel like the market owes me. And those are three potential mental traps that newer traders try to fall into. So just be very, very careful with that. Yeah, Key to Vegas, you're you know, do your thing. Do your thing. And that's what, you know, again, if you can take a piece of what Rake's talking about, a piece of what I'm talking about, a piece of, you know, read Mark Douglas's book or something like that, that's how you build your methodology. And that's how you learn what, every time you tilt, you need to go back and analyze what the hell just happened. I thought that was one of the first things Rake said. I thought it was one of the best things I've heard in the brief history of the show. You have to know what makes you go on tilt, right? You have to know if it's over trading or under trading or position sizing or revenge trading. For me, it was chasing and revenge trading. Those are huge issues. So just make sure you guys are looking at that.
Absolutely. No, these are really good points. Just to clarify for anyone who's asking why I took 25 micros. So instead of taking 2 minis, and you're absolutely right, I could have absolutely taken 2 minis. The reason I took 25 micros is I want to give this room as well, kind of like Rake was trading. I want to see a bigger move here. So if I can take off half, so I like I said, I took off half, about 15 cons in my, or not about, it was 15 cons that I took on that initial breakdown. But then now I'm holding, you know, about less than half of my position. So if we do make a bigger move, you know, I'm holding more than, you know, originally 1 micro. So or I'm sorry, one mini. So what I would like to see is a bigger move, so I can remove more positions off as we go, you know, and it kind of leaves room for me to get that bigger move instead of running out of contracts. If one micro moves 100 points, that's good profit. So that's why I decided to trade 25 micros instead of just like one. But definitely, you know, give it up for Rake. I want to see you guys W's in the chat for Ray, because he's got some good insight for you guys today. And I think like the psychology that goes into this is, you know, just amazing of what kind of goes into his mind. And hearing your insight, Rake, is just amazing. And seeing how you trade as, you know, someone who's been in it for, I want to say more than 7 years, right? You know, because
this is my 8th right now. Yeah.
Okay, great.
8 years. Great. Yeah. And taking a loss, and, you know, it's hard to do that and just brushing it off and being like, all right, next, focus on the next trade, right? That is such an important skill to learn as a trader. And I want to give it up for you, because that's huge. So thank you for being here and showing that side, and, you know, just being amazing at what you're doing, as, you know, as we're talking right now. So give it up. I
appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, look, I tried to be as clear as I could. I don't care about losing, because I know the math at the end of it, right? So like that trade that we were in, or that I was in earlier today, the math was never in my favor to sell, you know? Like the way that I trade, I was up about 1.5 when I was risking. If I routinely sell when I'm up 1.5 when I'm risking, the math doesn't really work for me in the end, and I'll ultimately end up making more mistakes than anything, right? So, yeah, I mean it when I say I don't check the chat, so I have absolutely no idea what the chat is saying. I am sure that the chat has roasted me a little bit for taking a winning trade that ended up going red. I love you all in the chat. That's silly.
Actually, I know you don't follow the chat, but just the last few comments, it says, Rake continued his lesson during a loss. What a legend. Rake is the GOAT. People here don't realize how goated his advice is. Rake's view on success compound was amazing. I followed Rake for about 3 years on IG. Dude is amazing. And math wasn't math.
I love you guys, chat. You're my homies, man.
Let's go. Yeah, this is awesome. We're so happy to have you.
No, I appreciate what you were saying there, Rake, but no, our chat doesn't roast for losses. That's like, they understand what's going on. So if somebody just wants to tear somebody down, there's plenty of other streams online where they can go do that. I'm saying one of them.
For sure. Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, and I'm not done. I took a loss. We took a loss. That's part of it. I'm still interested in what
walk us through what you're looking at right now. What would you be looking at here?
I'm still leaning towards upside. I don't know. I'm not to counter your short. That's why I'm like hesitant, because I know.
Don't be hesitant. It's all good.
Trying to fade you. Just moves up like this market tends to be in what I call parabolic mode, and I think it might be in that parabolic mode. So I don't know yet. I'm watching the opening print for some sort of reaction. I was thinking maybe we got over it on that most recent one. Turned out to just be a rejection of it. So I'm open-minded.
Okay. All right. We like it.
Yeah, but I also see your short, especially down into especially into 436s.
So I did, yeah. So that trend line that I have, you know, this is kind of my area that I would be looking to take the majority of my profit off. I did take one piece off right here as we were pushing down with volume here, but you know, my stop is going to be in profit, guys. So my stop is currently sitting at 493. I don't want this trade to go red. And just to your point, Rake, we could absolutely bounce and make a new move and make highs for the day, right? So that's absolutely not what I want. Don't ever let a green trade go red. Never let that happen. And so for me, my stop is sitting at this 493. We get continuation, we get it. That's great. If not, then I would expect a possible bounce at this level here at the 450 area. If not, then, you know, we get increasing volume and we have some room down to pre-market low. So we'll kind of see where this trade takes us. But
While you're killing it there, Miriam, I just want to point out, this is why we have the best fucking viewers, man. That somebody just dropped a Jesse Livermore quote in the chat. My favorite Jesse Livermore
I love that.
quote. It was never my thinking that made the big money for me. It was always my sitting. Got that? My sitting tight. And what he's talking about, and there's a longer form of the quote. Maybe I'll find one of the graphics I used to have, put it up in a future show. But talking about how, you know, as Rake said, it's really not that hard to make money in the markets. What's hard is keeping that money and not giving it away on the next trade or the next trade and the next trade. There is a time for trading. There is a time for sitting. Guys, there's been 3 or 4 calendar days in 2025 where I have not made a single damn trade because there was nothing that lined up with my system and what I do. So, you know, again, I'm going to trade my setups. I'm going to trade my system. No setup, no system, no trade. End of story. So I really, I really appreciate that. Dorman, you get the gold star for the day. That's outstanding. You drop a little bit more quote in here.
I love Livermore so much. I respect the hell out of anybody who knows Jesse Livermore's story, follows along, because he really is the OG trader. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a great quote, man. Wow, I love seeing that pop up.
Yeah, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator is the book, guys. It's actually a fictional book, and it's just sort of loosely based on Jesse Livermore's life. But the thing was written in the 1930s. I mean, it's almost 100 years ago, and still, in my opinion, this, along with The Disciplined Trader by Mark Douglas, the 2 single best books on trading. You haven't read The Disciplined Trader by Mark Douglas or Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, I honestly, guys, I don't know what to tell you. It's fantastic reads, entertaining and knowledgeable, and you should read them every single year as a trader.
I wholeheartedly agree. Do you have one of those, Jake, that kind of helped you with your discipline and your psychology?
For sure. I think the 2 books that were mentioned, definitely, you know, I think that just Mark Douglas in general, you know, Trading in the Zone and Mental Game of Trading was a good one. But I will say, for me, trading psychology I reference it as trial by fire. And I am, just for reference, I am watching for a long, but I would prefer us, since I already tried a stab on the day that lost, now I don't really have as much freedom to try another stab without very specificness. So now I'm kind of waiting for above this green line to maybe reconsider that idea. Again, not to fade you, because right now your trade is working and mine clearly.
Well, not to, you know, kind of stir the pot a little bit.
I was wrong, very clearly. You know what I mean?
Well, Brett is apparently long as well, so we're going against each other right now. We're kind of talking in the background, like talking shit, but you know, as long as we're both green, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah, I'm a big believer that trading psychology is trial by fire too. I think that like there's only so much you can read and map out and plan, and like a lot of trading psychology is, hey, like, have you dealt with it, right? Like, hey, do you know what it's like to walk away when a chart is not giving, like, do you know what it's like to do that? And I think a lot of that is like not necessarily stuff that like can be taught. It's something that you have to experience. So like in my career as a trading educator, I've made countless trading psychology videos, and I think they're all valuable, but I also am like, my friends, at some point, there is no teacher for trading psychology other than experiencing it. Like, you need to experience going through this stuff. You need to process what it's like to have a really big winning day and then give it all back the next day. You need to go through that and feel what it's like. And so a lot of times I'll get messages from people which is totally fair. People will have a really tough day, right? They'll blow a funded account. They'll be one day away from payout, and they'll message me and they'll be like, I fucked up. Like, I can't do this. Like, I don't know, you know, like, dude, is this just never going to end? Like, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times, one of the unfortunate things that I have to say is I'm like, I love you. I don't like you. There's no guarantee this is the last time. Like, that this happens to you. I wish I could give you some sort of piece of sage advice that would allow you to, you know, get over the hump and never deal with that issue again. But I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. You're probably going to deal with it again in a couple months or a couple years, it's gonna keep happening. Even once you've found success as a trader, you are still, it's an everyday battle, man. Like it is an everyday battle. It's not a straight line, and there's no like, oh, I figured it out. It's like, oh, now I have a little bit better control of it. That's what it feels like to me, right? And so I think there's so much of trading psychology that like you can't do, like it can't necessarily be taught. There's a lot of it that it has to be experienced because it's an emotional, personal moment on some level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you feel like, when did that kind of start to click for you? Like what year in your trading career?
2020 for me was where it kind of started to pivot a little bit. It took me some time, and I started the end of 2017. It took me some time because you just like you guys were saying, like you can't do that. It's like a weird comparison I'll use is like trying to jump into a relationship with someone after like 2 weeks, or like, you know, very rarely. I'm sure there's situational things in the world where that's worked. My guess would be a lot of the time that has not been a successful route, because you just can't fit a lot of understanding and knowing of each other into a 2-week period, right? That's the same thing with trading. Like you can't know how you're going to react in certain situations, or how you're going to behave, or things that you're going to do in a year. Like you just don't know. Like there's just more you need to experience. There's more trials and tribulations that you have to go through, right? And so to be able to expect that that you would have this understanding in a year, or whatever the case may be, it's almost like you're putting an unrealistic timeline and expectation on what our brains are able to achieve, you know? So for me, it was like 2020 where I really started to make any progress on that. And it wasn't until, it was years of zero progress whatsoever first, you know?
Do you feel like there was any particular trade that really helped you come to that realization? I mean, was it like a big loss that you had to take, or a memorable trade that kind of made it click for you?
I don't think so. I think there were so many. This is that's a great kind of mini tangent that I can, that. In my opinion, it's pretty rare that I remember that you or me or anyone remembers trades outside of like a few weeks span, right? Like you'll maybe remember those big, like the one, everybody will maybe have a big loss that kind of that'll stick with you and all that. But like, let's say that you have FOMO over, a trade that you closed early and then it ran without you, and you really hate that and all that. It's like, for me, that's really annoying in the interim. Within like the next day, to be quite frank, I've usually moved on and forgotten about it. Yeah. And so the same thing kind of operates. I wouldn't say that there's one trade or anything that happened like that. I would say more it was like a series of events, right? Like a period of those trades where, like, for me, it was probably like 3 or 4 months in a row of I'd make some money that month. And then at the end of the month, I'd want a bigger number, and I'd subsequently take more trades and ultimately lose that money, right? Yeah. And it's like, and then when that happens to you 4 months in a row, like 4 months, wow, you call your mom or your dad or your partner or your best friend or whatever, and you're like, dude, I think it's like about to happen. I'm up $7,000 this month. Is that not insane? That's life-changing money. It's bigger than my paycheck. And then on the next day, you try to get to 10 and you lose it all, right? Like that didn't just happen to me once. That didn't just happen to me 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. That happened to me like 10 times, right? And I think it's the process of that 10 times that eventually is what really makes you be like, oh shit, I'm over that. Like, I don't want that to happen again. And so you start to take precautions. You start to say, hey, I don't trade the last 2 days of the month when I've had a winning month. I don't care what the market looks like. I don't care what the potential chart setups are. I know that I have a history of doing some silly stuff on these days. I don't do that, right? Right. And so there are things that you're going to go through, and it's like, so I wouldn't say that there was no like one turning point for me. It was a series of these events where eventually it's like, enough is enough. Like I'm done dealing with this, right? So yeah, I wouldn't point to it as like one canon moment for me. I think it's important to understand that they all kind of worked in conjunction with each other.
So, Rake, I got a question for you, man. So we got to do something special while you're here for everybody, especially with this chat who's been asking some great questions. We heard you love the end of day drawdown account. So should we do a special on the growth accounts?
I would love that, man. I would love that because those accounts to me are like, that feels like real trading where like you can be yourself. You know what I mean? And not necessarily have to adapt your style. I would love that if we could do something special on those.
All right, accounts. So we're going to drop a 45% off growth accounts for the next 100 accounts. We're going to drop the code in the chat here, guys. It is Rake Growth, all caps, Rake Growth. 45% off the growth accounts with the end of day drawdown just for 100 orders, guys. Get your ass over to tradeify.co and sign up for that. Again, code Rake Growth for the 45% off the growth accounts. Boy, that sounds like something people should jump on, Rake.
Oh, yeah.
That's a crazy deal. And again, the growth accounts, they just let you trade like yourself, man. And I love that. I really, really do love that because one of the, people, a lot of times, like you said, prop firms are an amazing thing, but sometimes they could just get into your head because, there's different requirements you have to meet and all that. The growth accounts, the freedom they offer, I love them. So I love that. I appreciate you guys doing that. I know that my community as well will be very grateful that you guys have offered that up. So thank you.
That was all direct from Simba there, Rake. He said we got to do that for you.
Brett, my man, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you.
I think we might have. Do we break the site a little bit with this?
We broke it. Yeah, we broke it last time we did something like this.
I think this is our biggest discount on growth this year.
I haven't seen 45%, and I know. No, I track the growth because I try to announce whenever there's something on them. Because I really do think they're great. I haven't seen 45% all year, so this is a once in a year opportunity. So I'm very grateful for you guys for offering that up for me.
I love it. Well, we're happy to have you here. Obviously, the chat is loving you, and so you're breaking our site, man. I mean, what do we do? What do we do here? No, we absolutely love your energy and your insight. And you said that you had spoken to Coach Tank in a little earlier.
Yeah.
Is that guy's accent just smooth as all
Oh my gosh, man. Bro, he's so smooth and
he is.
He makes you just feel. It's just great chatting with him. It really is great chatting with him. So it was a really great conversation because I'm live with a variety of different prop firms. I also trade personal account. That's important to me. And across the board, it's been an amazing year, right? Multi six figures. I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, very lucky, right? But I got moved live with a Tradeify account. And that was a $20,000 starting balance, which was just it's amazing. I was able to do some amazing things with that before, based on how much profit I'd made. I'd gone a lot. My stats were really good, and it's been an adjustment for me because my personal accounts are over multiple six figures, right? So the sizing part has been an adjustment for me. I've been having to trade 5 micros, 1 NQ. It's just a change. Right. And so I went into that conversation. I'm sorry, what was his name again? I just don't want to say it incorrectly.
Coach Tank.
I went into the conversation with Coach Tank, and it was a unique one, right? Because I think that a lot of times his conversations are with traders who are like really struggling to might blow their account, might be, in really big drawdown and all that. This year, I'm having a great year. Right. But that account was in some drawdown. And I had this conversation with him, and he had to take a unique approach where he was kind of like, okay, I want to offer you some insight and do this, but I also don't want to I know that this struggle might be coming from, relearning to trade with a smaller position size, kind of readjusting to that, all that. And I was like, we both knew that. Right. So in my head, I was kind of like, all right, what's this guy going to say that is going to change my mind, or not change my mind, but like change anything for me. And I wasn't really necessarily sure what that conversation would look like. And then he challenged me in a way that I thought was so fascinating and I thought was so valuable, which was, he didn't phrase it like this, but this is the way that my brain processed it. Is the idea was sort of like, hey, Jake, don't you love trading? Like, you love it, right? Like, you really, like, I can tell you put passion and care and attention to detail, and like, you love trading, right? And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, I love this shit. Like, this is what I do. This is my job. I'm great at it. Like, I know myself. I know what I succeed. Like, yeah, I really love trading. And he's like, and again, it wasn't the exact phrasing, but this is how my brain took it, and it really meant so much to me. And he was kind of like, okay, well, like, for the love of the game, like for the love of what trading is, for the respect that you have for trading, don't you want to get this account out of drawdown? Like, don't you want to see this through, right? Because like, realistically, let's just be honest, the money I might make in the next month from this $20,000 or started at $20,000 live account versus a six-figure personal account, they're just going to be different numbers, right? Like, I'm going to make a larger number on my personal account. There's just no way around that. There's no way trying to beat that, no way of trying to escape that. It's not the end of the world, right? But he's like, but like, let's screw the money for a second, right? Like, you're a trader. You love trading. You have a great respect for what trading is. Don't you, as someone who has that passion, has that love, don't you want to show that like you can succeed in this account despite the fact that you've gone through drawdown? Like, if you're a trader that's going through drawdown, what do? You in reality, not a you don't up the daily loss limit and YOLO yourself back into success. You cut your size, you make the math work, and you get out of drawdown. Again, these weren't the words that were said, but all I could hear in my ears were like, do you love trading? Do you respect trading as an art, as a craft? And are you willing to put in the work to get this account out of drawdown the right way, right? Not YOLOing, not increasing that daily loss limit, not upping your size and saying, hey, you know what, that's not the way to do it. If you really love trading, like if you really love it, what you're going to do is you're going to go about it the right way. You're going to cut your size, right? You're going to reduce your risk. You're going to trade, make sure the math works. You're going to do all this. And then eventually, as the trader that you are, you're going to succeed. Is it going to take you a few months to get out of this drawdown if you do it the right way? Yeah, that's just the math behind it. But it was that message of like, he challenged me to be like, you love trading, right? Like, you love what you do. Then do it the right way. Don't cheat. It was almost like, don't cheat the game. And I swear, I didn't know what to expect going into that call. I've been a profitable trader for a long time. I wasn't sure what a psychology coach was going to bring to the table that I wasn't already aware of, right? And he brought something to the table where I was like, oh shit. I was like, yeah, I'm super motivated to succeed now. Like, I want to get out of drawdown. Like, I want to win. I want to show the game that I respect it. So I just thought that was a really powerful conversation, and almost on some level a way that I had never approached trading or thinking like that before. So I had to give a shout out to Coach Tank, man. That was like that was a really special moment for me. As someone who's been trading for 8 years, you don't really expect to have many more special moments. That was a special moment, and it really mentally challenged me. It's like, yeah, I love trading, and I want to treat it with respect,
Wow.
I love that. I love people who want to be good at something for the sake of being good at it, right? Like, that's a really cool thing. It's like, and it just so happens that you get really good at trading and it changes your life financially as well. But yeah, for me, like, nailing 3 out of 3 trades, like the P&L is great at that point, but you know what? It's nailing 3 out of 3 fucking trades, right? Where you're just like, you saw it, you executed, you got it. And that is one of the coolest feelings in the world. It's like, in those days, it's the, when I was growing up, my dad was an athletic director at our local university, and we made one of those Cinderella Sweet 16 runs in 1998. so I was kind of there behind the scenes for all that as I was it's in high school at the time. And I remember there was the school is Valparaiso University, and it was a big shot in 1998. Bryce Drew, coach's kid, hit a last-second shot for a major upset. And I grew up down the street from him, and I used to see him in the dead of winter out there shooting shots in December and January in his backyard, shooting free throws, shooting all this. So to see that shot fall and be like, the old One Shining Moment song is, no one knows how hard you work, but now it shows. And it's the same thing with trading. You put in that work. Guys, just the moment you decide to be a trader and to do it, commit 3 years, as we've talked about, and just say, I'm busting my ass for the next 3 years. And I'm going to work. I'm going to outwork everybody. And yes, we all, all of us have different life circumstances with other jobs, careers, spouses, kids, whatever the case may be. So yeah, you got to want it. You got to earn it. You got to create some time for it. But if you bust your ass for 3 years and don't go completely overboard in either personal accounts or evals, but just use them to get better, guys, you're going to, and that doesn't mean you can't make money in that time, right? Like, especially with a good prop firm like Tradeify, if you can, get on a nice little hot streak, you can, cash out a little bit. But man, guys, just really commit yourself to doing that work and commit yourself to being good at it for the sake of being good at it. And that is what will change your life.
1,000%. I love what both of you said. I mean, Jake, like, you've been in this for 8 years. I mean, and you still kind of go through these patches, and you describe that like it's still important to, have the psychology always in the front end and have it reframed in a way where it kind of clicks for you in a different light. And something that may have resonated with you, 3 years ago might not resonate with you now, and vice versa. And so it is important, to have that side of psychology. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you bringing that insight. I've been also told that we're out of the 150.
These guys went through it in about 10 minutes.
We were out a while ago, by the way. This was not just like a right now happened. Like we were out like I think in like the first like 10 seconds, but yeah, you guys ate that up. I love it. We are also, actually, I do want to bring us back to the charts real quick. Jake, you do have a level there that I'm seeing that I also kind of like. What is that level there? Because I just took a profit. Actually, I took 5 cons off. So I'm in runners as we speak, as we're breaking this trend line. What is that level?
I like that. Yeah, it's just one of the levels that I use. How I get them, it's just a long conversation. But it's just one that I'm paying attention to. And right now we're seeing a decently strong reaction off of it. Yeah, so I don't know what that means, but I don't know. I haven't been able to shake my feeling all day that we're gonna hold, but clearly I have not been right on so far. This was the initial level I was looking for, but yeah, no, I'm curious if we hold here.
I am also curious if we hold you here too, because like I said, we have Drew, if you don't mind going to my chart real quick so I can kind of show everyone what I'm looking at. This trend line that I'm seeing on NASDAQ here, we attempted to break it. So we did kind of cut through it here. This is the 5-minute chart that I'm looking at, but we are holding, right? So this is something that I don't genuinely want to see if I'm short. This is the trend line that I want to see us break through and continue with volume. So we are kind of holding it here, and that's why I was curious at that level that you had on your chart, Jake, because it's holding right now, and we're getting a hold here. So I do want to see. I did move my stop to 488. So like I said, I'm only in runners right now. I took the majority of my position off. This trade will end in profits, but this is not something that I want to see reverse on me, which is it's kind of looking like it wants to do. And again, never let your your green trades go red. So that's something that I'm kind of watching here on the back end. We did break this trend line on the ES as well, but we are trying to retest it here. We'll see what we do. We're holding this supply zone as well. So I'm not really sure. I don't really know what we're gonna do here. We're only like an hour into the market, so anything can and will happen, right, guys? We'll see.
All right. We do have a
Brett's
question.
telling me to be a savage and flip long right now.
We do have a question for Rakes that I want to get to in the chat here. It says from Lisa, how was it growing a new prop account once you got funded, Rakes? Did you do anything differently with your strategy, or did you have to adjust?
No, it's a great question. I think for all prop accounts, you have to adjust a little bit just per whatever the rules may be, right? Whatever the specific rules are. You have to just, but I try to just trade like myself. So that's why, like, for me personally, we talk about these big moves and all that. I struggle with accounts that have intraday trailing drawdown because, like, I know the advanced accounts of Tradeify, they have those. If you can do that without messing with your strategy, comes highly encouraged by me, right? For me, that kind of got in the way of the stylistically of how I trade. So I aim not to do it, right? But yeah, I would just say for approaching a new prop account, the best thing you can try and do is again, tailor your environment to the way that you trade, curate it to the way that you trade, so that you're not forced to change who you are in order to meet the rules, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is you know, you really are pushing some nuggets here. One thing I do want to ask though, Rake.
Yeah, hit me.
What is again? We're seeing
that quite a bit, and we may have been told to ask you about that.
I am very addictedly obsessed with a musician called Fred Again, to the point where I have a tattoo on it.
We got to see it. Where's the tattoo?
Just showed it.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe that that's the Mozart of our generation, and I'm very addicted to the point where I fly to different countries to see him perform. And I will be doing it again and 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 again. No, so yeah, wow, that makes sense that it comes from the chat. I'm like, this is a crazy specific question.
Yeah, we were getting some of that and wondering, like, all right, we gotta claim it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm a big. That's what I like to spend my money on. I like experiences. I like to do cool stuff. I'm not big on.
I'm 100% the same way.
100% the same way. I don't even own a car. I'm very big on life, and so one of my favorite things to do. It's funny because some people ask me, they're like, "Oh, are you like very?" They hear that I love this one musician, and I go to all of his concerts and all of his shows, and they're like, "Oh, that's like awesome. Are you like into that scene? Like, do you go to a lot of like concerts or shows and like DJs and all that?" I'm like, "No, literally, I just hit. Like, I just go to hits. Like, I'm not into that scene at all, but I'm into his music." That's a
awesome.
crazy fella. Yeah, maybe he's out of crazy.
So were you usually originally on the West Coast? Is that right?
Yeah. So I heard you talking about the time zone for the West Coast earlier. I lived in my first 5 years for trading. I lived in various parts of California. So I did. It sounds like that's where you live right now. You're on the West Coast?
Sunny California. Southern California.
Yeah. I lived pretty much everywhere in California. I did LA. I did San Fran. I did Fresno.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. But basically, I used to live in California. Love California. Love West Coast. Much to my mom's dismay, I'm never coming back. It's just hard. The East Coast hours are just so much superior.
Do you feel like the East Coast has changed your trading game in any way?
I sleep more. Yeah. I just operate. I previously operated on like 5 or 6 hours of sleep period. Like
Mm.
for a legitimate 5 years of my life, I operated on 5.5, 6 hours of sleep. Period.
Wow.
Literally, period.
I don't know if it is about like our guests today, but same with Rips yesterday. We had Rips on the show. This guy is on the West Coast, wakes up at 2 a.m. and doesn't go to bed until like 8 p.m. So I don't know if it's like a,
Why did you
the
wake up
guests
at
we
2
have on.
a.m.?
You guys are a different breed.
The
2
only
a.m. is
question I
crazy.
have is the matcha as good on the East Coast it is on the West Coast there?
The matcha, no, but the bagels and coffee are just, whew,
Oh
can't
yeah.
compete.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Yeah, it's definitely different trading on the East Coast. I can appreciate trading on the East Coast, but West Coast you finish earlier, so that's one perk, I guess.
Yeah, that's for the longest time. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's the perk that I convinced myself. It was like the reason I stayed on the West Coast. Is I was like, guys, I finish at like so early. Not gonna lie, I did move to the East Coast. I still finish pretty early. Like it's like noon and I'm done, and I'm like, oh, it's noon. Like it's not 9 a.m., but it's still noon. Like that's still pretty early.
Yeah, that's major. That's major.
No, there's pros and cons to both, and I think you should find where you want to live and then live there. And make the rest of your life work, right? So as much as I love the East Coast time zone, and that's definitely one of the things that's like keeping me here, I also I love New York, and I am exactly where I want to be from a city perspective. I literally could not imagine not living here. I just could not fathom that concept. So wherever you want to be, you'll find a way to make it work. You know what I mean? You'll find a way to make it work with timing and with taxes and all those things. Because if I didn't care where I lived, hell, I'd be in Puerto Rico right now.
Let's go.
I'd be in Puerto Rico right now, sitting through a storm, complaining and all that. And I just don't think you'll find me doing that. At least not yet.
So, Rakes, make sure you let us know, let the chat know, where can they follow you outside of this program here?
I appreciate that. I have a YouTube channel, Rake Trades LLC. I'm working on, I just bought a course. I'm trying to get better at YouTube. I'm trying to educate myself. I know that's a process. But YouTube and then Instagram is really where I have the most fun. So Instagram, just Rake Trades. You might not see me post a lot about trading on there, but you will certainly see me have some really, really fun stories. And I promise you, I like to believe I'm one of the better follows on that app. So I appreciate that. Instagram and YouTube, just Rake Trades, and you'll find me for sure.
Awesome. Let's put that in the chat so everyone knows, at Rake Trades. I hope it's Rake Trades, right? I think I got that right.
Exactly how it sounds. RAKE
right.
Trade.
Make sure you guys give Rake a follow. I don't know whether to call you Jake or Rake, so forgive me.
Either are great. I appreciate it.
No, if you want his attention, you just go again. Again.
That's right. Absolutely. So, as we've been talking here, market's not really doing much. So, we're just kind of like chopping around. This is kind of something that we're still in this pre-market range, it looks like. So, Jake, is there anything that I know we kind of talked about this, but what are you looking at this point?
Yeah, I look back on my one trade of the day, and I'm like, first thing I always ask myself is, would I do it again? My answer is hell yeah. I was looking for a potential runaway today. The only thing I would have done differently is trailed my stop to even, just because I normally don't love to do that, but in this situation, I had an entry where I should have done that. I wouldn't do anything differently. In terms of what I want to happen next, I don't really know. We're looking at a daily chart here, and on the daily, I prefer to use QQQ. You get a little bit of an accurate picture. If you asked me coming into the day, what's the daily candle going to look like on the QQQ? This is one of the options that I had. It was like a small rest day, right? Some sort of consolidative, not make a big move. So in my thinking, I don't know if there are trades that I want to catch, which are the larger trending ones. I don't know that another one's going to present itself today, right? So I kind of look back on my day and I'm like, all right, what did I do, right? I took an entry, what I call a runaway, just in case this happened to run away and the market goes all the way to 626. And I was willing to risk 25 points to do that, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? That was the setup that I was kind of looking for. Another option that I was thinking about pre-market was buying the dip off of this 436. The problem is I didn't plan to buy the dip after we failed higher first, right? Like my thought of buying the dip was like, if we straight up came down here, yeah, I like that level to hold as support. I didn't anticipate that we were going to fail that first and then buy this dip. Like I would have preferred we just went straight down here and then we could use this as a target. But now that we failed up here, in my eyes, I'm kind of like, I don't know, Right. So I'm being patient. The odds of me taking another trade are probably pretty low. I think that I'm kind of I stand by this a little bit. I'm a good loser, and so on a day where I was wrong, and I mean there's just no other way to put it. I guess I was right for a couple minutes, but I was wrong. Right? There's no need for me to try and force the issue into being right. I can just sort of accept that hey, what I was looking for didn't occur today. All right, let's move on to the next. So I don't know, to be totally honest, and I wish I had a better answer for you because I know that's not the crowd-pleasing answer, but
yeah, it's the honest answer, and that's what we want.
So for yesterday, for clarity, you can actually see the trade that I took on this Tradeify live account was great, and I actually held it till like up here. Very similar idea, right? Some sort of spike lower first. I found myself an entry in. I held it for a good move. Worked out great. Done, right?
Yeah.
Then today, it was kind of the opposite thing. I did not get that trade. I did not get the fall through that I wanted. Right? I don't feel the need to necessarily force my way into anything new. So to be quite frank, I don't know what I would want to happen next. Like, I truly don't know. Because again, in order for me to want to short this, it's just unless I had an entry like you had earlier today, up closer towards the highs, I don't think the risk is the same down closer to this level. So I don't know that I want to short. It looks a little bit too weak to long. So I might just be in hands-off mode.
Yeah. And that's always a position too, right? Like I think everyone thinks that, as traders, we're always in the market somehow. And that's not true. We're not making our money just being in the markets at all time. We're making our money by finding these good executions or these good trades and executing on them. So, even for me, like if I didn't take that short where I took it, I would be in the same boat as you. We are breaking a trend line, which is typically my trade that I like to take. But the way that I'm seeing the market kind of chop around, as I'm speaking, we're getting this breakdown, but it's not, sometimes you kind of have to look at, you might have a thesis, but once the day kind of goes by, it's not something that looks appealing, as you thought it would. Now for me, my last take profit is going to be it's coming pretty close here. I'm going to take my take profit at 430 area. And actually I'm going to set my alert over there right now. But if we get there, I'm actually going to move my stop now to this 452. I don't want price to come back above here. If it does, it stops me out, great. But this is going to be my target, that 429. If it keeps going, it can keep going. I mean, pre-market low would also be another area. I just honestly, sometimes I just don't even want to be in a trade anymore. And I'm just like, I'm over it. I'm ready to start my day. And I'm like, you know what, this is good. And for futures, like I don't trade on my phone, Rake. I don't know if you do, but I just can't do it. I can't trade on my phone, especially futures.
Once I'm manage the position on my phone, like if I'm already in it. Sorry, let me go. If I'm already in the position, I don't mind managing it, right? But I will never like enter a trade off my phone, and like I mean, at least it never goes well when I do,
Right. Yeah, and you used to trade options, or do you still trade options?
I still do. Yeah, options are
Awesome.
great. I think everything's just situational, what's being offered and the opportunities that day. I prefer options towards the end of the week when they're cheaper and you can get a little bit more volatile moves from them. I trade both. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So are you still like, what would you say is your mixture of futures and options, or does it kind of like depend on the week? Are you mostly trading futures now?
It really depends. I think I trade futures almost daily, just because I love them as an instrument. Options, I'm a little bit more detailed about when I want to trade them, because I think there's just a little bit more to that equation with the options pricing and all that. But I really love options on the end of the week, on like Thursday, Fridays. Those are my favorite days to trade options. Those are my favorite days to trade options, just because you get better moves on Thursday, Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely, I kind of miss the COVID days. We were talking about this earlier with Matt about, you could literally wake up in 2020 and just like close your eyes, pick a stock and like go with call options, and then you'd be making money. And it was just like, it's way different now. You definitely have to have more skill. So it's an interesting dynamic, but yeah, I've been noticing more options traders switching over to futures. So it's a fun little instrument to trade.
The
sure.
Overnight holds on those options, if you're not a day trader with them, you can sweat those a little bit, even if you're properly position sized. Because
I
for
think
those
I'm
that
going
aren't
to
in
actually
options,
stop out of my trade in a bit here. I just stopped out the rest of my position. I am no longer in this trade. I don't want to see. We could potentially reject this trend line and come back down. That's absolutely fine. I got about, let's see, it was 510 short. My last exit was at 452. So a little bit less than 50 points, or actually 60 points on that trade, about 60 points on that trade. So no longer in that position.
Why don't we, let's open up the chat for any more questions for Rakes. He's going to take a few more questions. And then once he departs us here, Miriam, we'll have you break down that whole trade. Because I know it happened, the entry happened while Rakes was talking. So we want to make sure we kind of cover through all that.
I am not going to lie, ma'am. I just flipped long and took the opposite side of you. Once you closed, I took your close. And
Let's go
off this lower level. And I'm going to try.
Let's go. I like it. I like it. Matt, and I'm sorry, Matt, I don't know if we're having mic issues here. I wasn't sure if I didn't know. I was talking and I didn't know if I was hearing anyone, so I apologize
if I hear me.
Cut anyone off, but it sounds like
okay.
Sounds like Jake is in a position. So what is your target on this trade?
I'll take it to the high a day. Would be the goal here. Yeah, this was part of my initial plan today, was to wait for this level test. Part of my plan for today was to wait for this level test. We got it. I'm still fighting a counter trend trade. But I really like the risk of if this level will hold. So we'll see. I might eat another stop, but this was part of the plan for the day.
I like it.
So I'm willing to try.
Hey, okay. we gotta take risks in this market, right? Like no risk, no Rari.
No risk, no Rari. I love that.
I do want to answer VJ's question here.
And while you're managing this trade, I want to know, I kind of want to go back to, so like when you're not trading and other than, going to Fred Again concerts and getting Fred Again tattoos, what do you do? Like, I know you said experiences and kind of, enjoying that, but walk us through like a day in the life of Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently started going to the gym, so I have to add that into my daily routine. That was previously never a part of my life. But I've recently started going to the gym, so that started. I am big. I worked really hard for the last 6, 7 years, 8 years of my life at figuring out trading, and then I wanted to be the best trading educator I could be, and I wanted to that. So nowadays my life is very oriented around what I want to do, right? And so a day in the life for me will include a lot of spending time with friends. It will include watching any and every game with them, going to dinners with them, being as much as active as I can be in my friends' lives is like the dream and goal to me, because which I know kind of sounds like, oh, wow, I really love the people that I spend time with, right? So like if I am spending time with someone, if I am I want to be fully present in that. And one of the things is I don't like money which I obviously am aware that I'm lucky to even say this. I don't like money to stand in the way of doing things with friends. So I try not to let it, right? Like if there's a sports game we want to go to, and financially it makes more sense for me to buy the tickets than anything else, I don't mind buying the tickets. I don't mind picking up the dinner bill that night. That's like, to me, those are the things in life that I have so much fun with, and I like that I'm gonna remember, and that like are meaningful to me, that I try to spend all of my time and energy on those things, right? And so that's where I would say arguably that I spend the most of my time. Now I'm trying to get into the gym more. I have a personal trainer. I've been going 5 times a week for a couple months. I'm really putting my best foot forward on the gym. I would say that of all the things that I do and how I spend my time, the vast majority of it is with friends, playing games. I love dominoes. I'm not great at it yet, but I really love playing dominoes. And so, like, not the pizza place, like actual dominoes board game. I have a table dedicated for it. Like, I love dominoes. So I love just hanging out with my friends playing them. So it's a simple life, right? Like I live a simpler life relative to a lot of traders out there that you see online. And I love it. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's amazing. And I'm sorry if Matt, I'm cutting you off because I apparently am having issues hearing you, but I think Matt has some things to say.
Yes, I didn't want to, I know there was something he had mentioned and I felt bad too. Hey, Matt, hit me, bro.
I had no idea that she couldn't hear me. I'm like, wow, she just keeps cutting me off and running me over. No, it's a pretty complex program we run in here. We actually spent quite a bit of time kind of getting everything done, and I was screwing up a few things yesterday. It happens, no big deal. But yeah, we'll give Miriam a chance to make sure she can hear me, or maybe she did it intentionally. Maybe she just said, "Fuck this guy, I'm just muting this thing." But no, I did want to just make sure, because there was somebody with a question here. Let me just scroll back because I want to make sure they get it. It was so 2 quick questions. Says, do you recommend newer traders trade the MES due to MNQ's volatility, and do you use ES as confluence when trading NQ?
Great questions. Yes, I believe newer traders can benefit a lot from using MES. The other thing I would say is you can still trade MNQ, you just trade less of them, right? Like, that's people sometimes really struggle with trading smaller size on the micros, and I promise you can make so much money using them. Whether it's the ES, the NASDAQ, I wouldn't put yourself in a box necessarily and just be like, I only trade ES micros. That's all I do, no exceptions on it. I personally wouldn't put myself in a box like that because I would want to trade the one that's looking better that day. Yeah. But yeah, and I also do use ES in my analysis for confluence, and there's no like specific rules though. That's where I a little bit hesitate. There's no like, this must be doing this must be doing that, this must be doing that. But generally speaking, it's kind of like we were saying earlier today, where they should be broadly moving in the same direction, right? Like, they should broadly be doing the same thing. And in some instances, that will present an opportunity, right? Like, in some instances, you'll see that the ES is kind of going sideways while the NQ is like really strong and is acting as like a bull flagging, is setting up a long entry, right? And ES might be going sideways, but maybe it's at a support level. that you think is going to hold. But when you add all those things together, I'm like, all right, well then I really like the idea of longs on the NQ because, sorry, I just realized that my drawing here isn't accurate on this trade. I need to make it accurate to where I have my orders. Where there's tons of situational things where it's like, okay, hey, this is the support that I think the ES will hold, right? If that's the case, while the NASDAQ is setting up a bull flag, that's going to add to my overall vision of what I'm looking for on that trade, right? And I'll be using them together in that instance. So yes, absolutely. But I say that with a small asterisk by it, with the note that it's not like a hard requirement of something in specific I'm looking for. But broadly speaking, I like to pay attention to make sure that they're not counter each other, right?
Okay,
like that
great.
To me would be some insight that I maybe don't have as clear of a picture of what's going on as I would want.
All right, well, that's great. All right, guys, last call for any questions for Rake here before we let him go in a couple of minutes. Looks like Miriam's coming back in the stream. She's all set up now. But yeah.
And I am going to close out I feel like this had the chance just a second ago to make its move. I'm down about 20 points. I think I'm just going to close it out.
Okay.
I had I think, well, I'll give it its half a second, but it had its opportunity to put in a nice big green bar there, and it just didn't, quite frankly. I'm only down about 10 points, which are on 15 mega, very small loser. Yeah. So I'll close this out for now. I think it's still not invalid, but yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out. But guys, yeah, this was an awesome conversation. I truly, at the bottom of my heart, I love trading. I love talking about trading with people who are passionate about it and educated about it. And you two are fantastic. So I really appreciate everything that we've kind of had the opportunity to have good discussions about today, because these are the discussions. There's so much online about trading that is useless, that these are the discussions that I think people can really gain some insight and value from, and can change their trading careers, so I'm really grateful for you guys having me on and the discussions we were able to have today. I hope that you feel the same way, because I feel like we had some great combos. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I ranted a little bit. I tend to do that. But
any friend of Jesse Livermore's is a friend of mine, so we'll definitely have to have you back on at some point, Rake.
Absolutely, man. I would love that.
Oh yeah, we definitely enjoyed it. We appreciate your insight so much. You were such a great guest. Guys, give it up for Jake. Give it up for Jake for coming on the chat today. W's in the chat. We loved having you here. We're excited to have you in the future. And definitely, it's at Rake Trades for all socials. So make sure you guys follow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you guys again so much for having me. I, again, can't say thank you enough. And have a great rest of your day, guys. Hope everybody trades safe, trade smart. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Awesome.
All right. Well, boy, we are 2 for effing 2 so far, Mary. In between Rips yesterday and Rakes today, man, just I'm the knowledge that is being dropped, guys. If you missed Rips yesterday, go to yesterday's stream, fast forward to where he comes on, and he was on with us for about an hour. And I can't pick my favorite. This is like picking your favorite kid these last 2 days. These two just amazing traders dropping some great knowledge. So honestly, guys, I love when you can see truly successful traders manage your losses. I love when somebody takes a loss and they're just stoic like that. That was real tight on his part. We're just okay, didn't work out, on to the next one. And he's sort of the unicorn when it comes to risk reward and winning percentage. He's going for a below 50% winning percentage, but incredibly successful risk reward. And again, the math has to math, and I trade differently, you trade a little differently, and yet we're all successful at it. There's not one path here, guys. There's multiple paths. You just got to find out what's best for you.
Absolutely. And it's so cool getting Jake's insight on how he trades. It's cool seeing his side of it versus Rip side of it and then our side of it, it's funny because like I said, we all see the same chart, right? And we're all analyzing it so differently. But essentially, we're all still successful in our own ways. So it just goes to show that there isn't like one way to trade, right? You can trade many different ways, but the goal is to, you don't want to be changing up your cycle too much, right? Like for the most part, we've all gone through that sort of reflection period, whether that takes several months or several years. That sweet spot we kind of talked about is that 3-year to 5-year mark where you're really, really understanding how things work and your own cadence to the charts. So that was great. That was an amazing thing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're gonna have a lot more guests coming up this week. We have 2 more guests showing up this week and more giveaways. So you guys got to make sure that you're in the chats. But as we are speaking right now, like I said, market's not really doing much. The
Really
trend line that I had
barcoded
on
out
my
after
chart,
that first 30 minutes.
yeah, we're not doing much. I mean, we did get that initial breakdown, but we've just kind of been slowly grinding down. And now we're kind of in this downtrend below this trend line. But yeah, not much to really take here, in my opinion. As an options trader, this would have drove me insane. This would have absolutely drove me insane because, this chop is not the kind of movement you want to see as an options trader. You just get chopped up and, premiums are not making money. So as a futures trader, if you just held and you can hold this and if you're in profits, it's fine, but not really something I'm really eyeing at this point. What about you?
No, exactly. And as we get kind of in the last 30 plus minutes of the show here, guys, I want to make sure we're opening up to questions. There's going to be days where obviously, Miriam had a great trade yesterday, great trade today. My live account is still getting loaded up, guys. So unfortunately, I'm sidelined for the day. But yeah, just some outstanding knowledge there, and I really encourage you guys to go back and watch some of that. And I'm sure we'll be clipping some of the highlights. But yeah, we're really in a market environment. It seems like, Miriam, we're at least in the mornings, and I do trade the afternoon occasionally, and actually I'm going to start doing it a lot more since I got this show as part of my morning routine. But yeah, it was, we seem to get like one chance at a move, and that's about it. We did get a small chance at an up move. And then obviously, you killed it on that short, but yeah, it's a little frustrating. I understand not every day can be 5 to 7, like A plus setups. And don't get me wrong, we talk about in this show about monitoring your emotions. It's still tough for me to not be frustrated with a day like today. Now, I don't let that frustration force me into a trade that I shouldn't be in. But yeah, being idle is tough for me. And again, I talk about if it weren't for the show, I'd probably be walking my dog right now and waiting for the next opportunity. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little pissed off at the markets. I think Brett needs to call somebody and get these things moving.
Seriously, yeah, Brett, we need you on here. I mean, there were a lot of promising trades that even the trade that Jake took earlier, that was a really great setup. And I think had we not been in this weird area, I agree with his sentiment. Like I was actually looking for a moment to possibly take along too, but we did get this massive rejection right at where my supply zone was. That's literally the area that I was looking for us to hold for continuation. And unfortunately, bulls didn't have it in them today. So I actually lost in terms of so far, who knows? Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. We can completely reverse this and take out the highs. And, that's just what the market, we've been experiencing this, right? So anything can happen. We still have so much day left. And I think at this point, if you're looking for a long, this is not where I would be taking it, especially if you want that bigger move, kind of like Jake kind of looks for. I would wait for some sort of confirmation that gives us a reason to go long. Again, yesterday's close is going to be that one basic level, right? I always look at the previous day's close and the previous day's highs. If we can hold those levels, I think there's a good chance for a reversal. Uh-oh, what just happened? Oh, geez. Okay, well, this is why you guys need to make sure that you don't have positions on, because apparently I just got filled for one. I had to close it real quick. Rookie
last
move
little.
on my end. I just heard order filled, and I'm like, what is going on?
Isn't that the worst feeling in the world, and you don't know where it is?
I just panicked for a second, like, what did I just get filled on? And that was actually originally, so I was looking at this 430 level. I told you guys I had originally set a limit there to take profit earlier. Didn't close that limit. So make sure you don't leave orders on your trading view. That was such a rookie move. I have not done that in a really long time.
I got a fun story for you. So this happened about 8 months ago. So at the time I was using a different platform, and the platform had just one switch toggle between a live account and a paper account. You could put the same positions on the screen. So what I used, because their indicators and their alerts were just crap, it's one of the reasons I left that platform, I would use the paper system to set alerts. So I'd set, just whatever, a micro, whatever. And so when I would hear order filled or the ding that's order filled, that was my alert sound, right? And so I did what I always do. The last thing I do before I close down everything at the end of the night, I check my order queue, right? Make sure it's clear, make sure there's no orders, no positions, whatever. Well, unbeknownst to me, I think the last position size I had used was like 30 micros or something, right? And somehow, and I'll spoil a little bit just because you'll see where this is going. Somehow that carried over from micros to minis in my paper account, which didn't really have like a balance set to it. It was, just whatever. And so I somehow ended up short 30 minis, thankfully in a paper account. Oh, no. And the next morning I come down, I open up my screen, and the first thing I see is negative $74,000 in my P&L. When I tell you that's I'm a pretty with it dude. I think I've had maybe one panic attack in my entire life. About had one at that. And it finally I saw then it was like two numbers in Sim 4 or something. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Oh my
right.
God.
There was about 4 seconds there where it was just absolute panic. And yeah, then thankfully, but yeah, it's guys, always make it a point. And don't get me wrong, what just happened to you happens to me 10, 12 times a year. Like where you hit an order and it's intraday, but guys, take it from somebody. And I did leave a position open overnight one time. And that's when I got into this habit of checking orders. Thankfully, it ended up being a small winner. But yeah, always before you go to bed, guys, check your orders. When you leave your computer, shut it down, make sure you have no positions, clear your orders, do whatever you have to do. Hit that, I have on Sierra and a couple of a one cancel all button, and I will hit it 5 times before I shut it down, just to make sure there's no outstanding orders.
Yeah, this is one of those that would have actually worked out really well. We're up like about 20 points from where that order filled, but of course I canceled it. I'm not in a trade right now, but it's definitely make sure you don't have any lingering limit calls or limit orders on your charts. But we did get that. I think we did get that updated. Yeah. So we're just hanging out here. So if you guys have any questions for us, we would love to take them in the chat. Definitely funny. I'm still laughing that I made that rookie move. It's been a really long time since that's happened to me. So of course it would happen on the stream.
Well, but you also approached it the right way, right? Because I know it, like, okay, say you would have been 20 but like if you're not intending to be in a trade, get out of the trade. Right. Like that's, somebody said, well, I'm going to see how it's going to turn out. No, you don't have a plan. What are you doing? Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So that was one thing I took away from our talk with Rakes is, I took a ton away, but and there are certain things you guys hear in trading all the time, certain axioms that, they're there for a reason. Right. And one is plan your trade your plan. Right. And that's 100% accurate. You have to have a plan before you get into a trade. I get into a trade. Before I enter my trade, I know exactly where I'm setting my stop. And that's the first thing I do is set the stop. Then I can step back a little bit, watch the initial price action and break down where I maybe want to take my first profit target, depending on how quickly the trade is moving forward against me or not at all. But yeah, trade management, guys, is just, everybody's so focused on having that winning strategy or getting great entries. And those are so vital and so important. But managing trades is just, knowing where to set everything is just, it's a skill, guys, and it takes time. I go back to when I was working for a major brokerage at the time in their education department. And I remember I was all options. I was swing trading options, occasionally day trading. I was making the transition into futures because our futures coach had offered to help me out if I wanted to get into it. And he said, it's most of the same, strategies and styles and all that you're going to use. He said, but I said to him, what is the most important thing to make the transition to day trader? And he said, screen time. He didn't even hesitate. It's screen time, right? It's that experience and just being there, watching things break out, break down. I've seen probably 10 million candles open and close over the years on my screens. And it's through that you develop the ability to first of all, identify trades. And second of all, the most important thing, because this is something I noticed, I know Rake was talking, we missed your entry there, but you got into that trade without hesitation. And that's, when you identify your edge, you have to take advantage of it and you can't hesitate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because that's the thing too, it's like, it's not going to work out 100% of the time, and it's not meant to, right? If there was a trade or a strategy that worked out 100% of the time, I'm pretty sure everyone would be using that strategy and the markets wouldn't be what we're doing right now, because everyone would be making money and not losing any, right? So, it's one of those where, you just have to execute and you have to look at like what's working and what's not, right? That's the key here. And, just because it didn't work out one time, right? Like my trend line strategy, yeah, essentially it would have worked today, but I didn't like how the price was moving. So you have to look at different areas, but that comes with experience, right? That comes with chart time. And I've said this before, but it doesn't mean that you have to trade every single day to get chart time, right? Chart time doesn't translate into trading every day. But, yes, every time you trade, you are getting chart time, right? So you can still look at the charts and analyze the charts, but not necessarily have to take a trade. You can just sit there and look at what's going on. And another thing too, and I know some people have some like mixed feelings about sim trading, right? And getting used to the markets. Absolutely use a demo account when you're not actually ready to trade, right? You don't want to be risking your own money when you're testing out strategies. Even to this day, there have been times where I'm looking maybe potentially for adding or adjusting a strategy that I have, and I'm not using my own money to do that, right? Like I'm testing it on a sim account to see if it actually works. And I'm still doing that to this day. Now, that's only for when I'm testing strategies, but that being said, like there's never a reason where you need to risk your own money in order to actually test something and see if it works for you. So, it's just one of those where you start to have an idea for the market sentiment and the market movements once you get that chart time. And that's just super important. That's something that Rips talked about yesterday. Jake touched on today as well. And it's just important as a trader to get that. So make sure you're not skipping out on that.
All right, so we take a look at the NQ here. We do have, we had a really strong candle both in the range and the volume delta. We've got a 5-minute ATR a little under 25 right now, so pretty good range. Again, there's nothing for me to do between -1 standard deviation and VWAP here. What I would really like to see is a breakout back into the 15-minute orb. Here at about 490. I would love to see a break into that area, because that's sort of what it began. Obviously, we have this big candle here, but it really began the accelerated sell-off down to about -1.5 standard deviation below VWAP. So I'd really like to see a break of 490. I think a break 490, 500 is on deck. And I think if we plow through there, I would not dismiss what Rake said about us potentially going high a day this afternoon. Am I willing to put my money where my mouth is on that right now? No. But I will say, if we reclaim VWAP and maybe we get above and hold between 480 and 500 for maybe 2 or 3 5-minute candles, I think a move high a day, or at least making a run back up at that 530 to 540 level could be what we find. There is a specific question addressed to you, Miriam, that I highlighted here. I want to make sure I got back to it. Where was it? Oh, Miriam, can you take us through your journey and how you turned the corner to being consistently profitable?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would say it was kind of an accumulation of multiple things that really helped me become more of a consistent trader, consistently profitable trader. And, for me, it was very much like a lot of my issues were that I was chasing into things. I didn't really have a set strategy. I was just kind of, oh, this looks good. It looks like bulls are coming in. I think one of the things that kind of ruined me early on is the COVID market. That was kind of when my trading journey really began. I mean, I was trading before that, but that's kind of when I got into options. And I joked about this, but it was like you could literally wake up and press calls on Amazon or Shopify or any of those major stocks
Zoom and
make
Netflix were
money.
big then too.
What was that?
Zoom and Netflix in the early days of COVID too. Anything that was an online subscription, which just went through the roof.
Right. And that's kind of what I think ruined me as a trader. Not just me. I think a lot of traders suffered through this because we had this like perception that the market is that easy. You really didn't need to have a strategy. You can just like go long and you're making money. And that was unfortunate on my end because I didn't actually learn how to trade properly until 2021 2022 hit, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is how you're supposed to trade. So I learned my strategy, I would say quicker than the typical trader, but for me, I really focused on one ticker. So at the time for me, it was SPX. I told you guys I traded options. SPX was really what I focused on. I didn't look at anything else. I barely traded anything else. I didn't really, trade the other companies like Tesla and Microsoft and Nvidia. I didn't really trade them. I focused specifically on one, and I got really good at it. And of course, I was at, automatically I'm looking at futures as I'm trading SPX because you kind of have to. So for me, it was focusing on one, getting really good at it, but also, just getting that chart time. Getting that chart time in is so important, and journaling what I was doing wrong, what I was doing bad. There was a moment where I was simply like in the pre-market, like kind of how we get on with you guys today and we talk about what we're looking for. For me, I literally wrote down what I would be looking for. So kinetically, I was learning and I was teaching myself what I was looking for. I literally write down the numbers. Okay, 21,452, I'm going to go short here. If not, I'm going to go long here. So it forced me to put my plan not only on paper, but then, talk about that in my head, like go over that in my head. And so then when that actually came to that point to take it, I would look down on my paper and say, okay, this is what I put down. I'm going to take this trade. And if it worked out for me, great. I would be like, this worked out. What were my emotions during this trade? How was I feeling? I would literally write that all down. And I know it sounds like so much work to some people, like, oh, I have to talk about my emotions, I have to journal. Seriously, do it, because it seems like such a waste of time right now, but I promise you, it is the best thing you could ever do for your career. And kind of like how Jake mentioned earlier, like if you love this game, if this is something that you want to turn into, your main source of income, or, even just like something that you get money from consistently, you have to take it seriously. Right? This is not a joke. You have to treat this as a business. You have to treat this as a job. So if you want to replace your current income, you have to take it seriously. And this is just one of the ways of doing that. And luckily, I know I'm talking a lot here, but luckily we do have, like I said, that journal in Tradeify that you guys can utilize and look at your past trades and analyze them. So, it kind of takes half that, writing work away, but, it's really great to just do that. So I would say that's very, very important.
Absolutely. 100% agree. The other question we just got, how to walk away when you made profit. And so, this stage in my career, I imagine Miriam's probably the same way, although you feel free to jump in and disagree if you disagree. I'm not necessarily setting daily profit targets, or I do have, if I take 2 losing trades to start the day, I told you I put myself on timeout. Third one, usually I knock it off for the day. So I don't necessarily have a daily stop loss, but I'm not going to sit there and take $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 worth of losses in a day. It's so, I kind of have one built in. But that's one of the reasons, guys, that I really like, I know they're not popular among traders, but things like consistency rules, they do some of that work for you. If you need to make, and I know I'm a Tradeify account, but I'm just going to use an example. Let's say you need to make $3,000 of profit and the consistency is 6 days, whatever. That's great. $500 that does the math for you. Hit that and be done. Then when you first get into funded and those consistency rules come off, keep doing that for a little while, right? Get 500. Then don't go from 500 to 1,000. Go from 500 to 550. up to 600, et cetera, right? And then eventually, once you get, honest to God, guys, 6 months of month over month profitability, then you think about dropping some of those. And because again, yeah, if your daily profit target is 500, you could cost yourself $1,000 a day. But as long as you're going to have rules put on you, by Tradeify to, to make sure you know what you're doing before they put you in a live account and give you access to live money, you might as well use those to your advantage. Don't complain about them. Make them part of your daily strategy. I know not all the accounts have consistency. I'm just using that as an example. But these are, guys, this is stuff that newer traders should and have been doing that leads to success for decades. So if you got to roll with it and just make that part of your methodology and make that part of your day-to-day trading.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is these are all great questions. I think keep them coming. If you guys have any more questions,
we're gonna take questions for just about 7 to 10 more minutes here, guys, before we wrap things up. So make sure you get them in now.
I want to know too, did anyone who made money today? Who is green today?
Let's get a Y or a 1 or a W in the chat, guys. Let us know who is green on the day so far. Don't bullshit us.
Flat. I mean, who didn't take a trade too? Nice.
All right, DHRU is green. Nice, 1K plus. Appreciate that, guys. Any questions on Tradeify, like accounts or future stuff? Like again, we want to try to stay away from those because there's a great FAQ on the website. There's also a Discord to join where you can get all of your questions answered. So I highly encourage you to check that out. We're fairly new to the Tradeify team, so we don't want to misspeak and accidentally give you the wrong information, and then you're telling support, well, that jackass Matt on the stream says this, blah 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 blah. So anything that relates to Tradeify, either or save them for the next time Brett's on. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer those. But yeah, the one-on-one coaching with Coach Tank is for the live funded. It's just it's a resource management thing at this point. They're only doing the live funded traders, and I know Coach Tank's booked up left and right already with doing both individual and group sessions. So again, he is a very, very capable and competent individual, but he's only one dude. So get it, do that work on yourself. And he's advanced with stuff. I mean, I've worked with beginners. I've worked with advanced traders. He wants to take somebody who already is having some success, and he's going to take you from being a good trader to a great trader. But guys, a lot of the work to go from unprofitable to profitable, not that there's not good programs out there in prior jobs I've worked with individual traders and in small groups, it can be done, but there's so much of it that just has to kind of come from you. And whether it's the big D word, discipline, whether it's, all of that, those kinds of things you have to develop on your own. I will tell you this from personal experience. I've worked with a lot of traders and a lot of them have had a lot of success, but there's sometimes you just see somebody, Miriam, I'm sure you've experienced this. Well, you'll talk to somebody for 10 minutes and be like, not that they'll never be successful, but within 10 minutes that, like, unless you break this thought pattern, you're going to really struggle to be consistently profitable.
1,000%. Yeah, it's not easy. It's really hard to do. I mean, like I said, trading teaches you a lot about who you are and your ticks and your issues and like how degenerate you really can be. Even if that doesn't show up in other areas of your life, it'll absolutely show up in trading. So I think it's one of the coolest things to get into and really teach you a lot about who you are as a person, and kind of your overall sentiment towards money, right? Like if you're someone who's afraid of making money or afraid of like losing money, or it's going to show up in your trading, and that's why they say a lot of it is psychology, because trading itself is simple. I mean, it's really not difficult to learn how to trade. It's difficult to keep the consistency going. And so, one question that I have here too, as I see is, Leah, you had mentioned I was up 1,700 and now that I'm up plus 600, I can feel that tilt within me. How do you deal with that? For me, a lot of people do this in different ways, right? Whether you need to set a daily loss limit straight up in your account to kind of just prevent you from even physically being able to take a trade. That's one way. And don't see it as like, a limiting factor, right? This is something that at the end of the day, you want to protect your capital, because I've been in it before where I've definitely gone on tilt, right? And I've blown my account, and I've completely regretted it, because not only, the next day did we have this great move that I could have easily made that money back and more, but it would have been a situation where if I had just waited and I wasn't like, eager to take on another trade, there would have been another setup later in that day that would have been perfect for me. So, it's one of those where you're up $600, keep it that way, just walk away, right? You don't want to be in a position where now you're negative because, you couldn't control your emotions in the moment. So if that physically means having to get up and go on a walk, do that, right? You start to figure out what really works for you. And then once you kind of get the gist of it, like I said, you kind of just start to realize, all right, I don't need to be chasing these trades because I know that there's another opportunity tomorrow. As traders, we get these opportunities, and we haven't been really getting like the best, in my opinion, best A+ setups, but it's one of those where you just have to see it as another day and as another opportunity.
Absolutely. And so last question we'll take here, guys, before we kind of wrap things up. There's been a few talking about what do you do when you hit tilt. And Marion, why don't you take this one first, and then I'll add some thoughts, because we're probably going to say some similar things.
You said on the tilt aspect?
Yeah. How do you handle like going tilt, blowing accounts, etc.?
Yeah, kind of similar to what I was just explaining. I still get emotional. I still get emotional as a trader. Like, I mean, even this happened to me a couple days ago. I got so frustrated, it would literally like stop me out to the tick and then go on and make the move. And that's extremely frustrating, because it's not that, you didn't have the right ideas, that you literally just got stopped out. And so for me, it's one of those where I've realized over time, like, I would rather be stopped out, kind of to how Jake was mentioning. I'd rather be stopped out than, take another trade because no, I'm right and I have to be right, and then just throw this friggin' tantrum. Like, yeah. I'm in my 30s. Like, who am I to just throw this tantrum on the market? Like, that's not going to get you anywhere, right? So you have to be composed. You have to trade with this composure. And I loved what Rake said earlier was, he doesn't really care. He's kind of like assuming the outcome's going to be the worst, which, that works great for him. And I think that over time as a trader, you just kind of have to assume that shit's going to happen, right? Like, it's not always going to go in your favor. And that's why, the quicker you can move from being pissed off, the quicker you can now find a better trade or be ready for the next day. So one of the things that I do is set rules for myself. I am not taking 2 back-to-back losing trades. If I do, then I'm done for the day. I am walking away. I don't care, if the market goes and runs another 100 points without me. I'm done. I'm closing the charts. I'm going to go for a walk. I might take a Pilates class, whatever it needs to be to take my mind off of trading. And, some people will literally like close, or I don't know what they like, they'll, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they'll oh my God, I am having a brain fart right now.
It's a good thing we're close to the end of the stream today.
I am like, I know, I don't even have my matcha yet. And I'm just like, but they won't look at their trades. They won't look at their charts. They'll literally close out all of their accounts, right? And they'll log themselves off. So, if that's something you have to do, don't see it as like a failure, right? I think a lot of people see that as, oh, I failed if I have to set a daily loss limit. I failed if I have to do this. No, you're trying to be better. You're trying to stay in the game. And that's great. That's good. That's a good thing. So, for me, it's creating these rules for myself has really helped me from going off tilt and reminding myself, right, that there's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow, because I've had some of the best comebacks. I can't even like explain to you. I've had days where I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And then the next day I'm like, I'm so glad I'm doing this. Right? Yeah. That's the dichotomy of trading. But, you just have to remember that you're going to have those days, and you got to walk away because your capital is more important.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that. Basically, if you're tilting a lot, right, you're blowing an account left and right. First of all, the most important thing after you get through 2, 3, 4, 5 blown evals or blown, you need to know what you did wrong. You need to step back. Like, are you normally making 3 trades a day, but on days you tilt, you make 7? Well, okay, that maybe you're over trading a little bit. Sometimes the answer can be fairly simple. Sometimes it requires a little more analysis. But to just reset an account, not look at what you just did, and get back in is the absolute wrong approach to it, right? You have to at least analyze. And that was, if you take one thing away from Rake, and there was way too much to take just one thing away. There's a ton of knowledge, but if you take one thing away, the thing that he talked about that impressed me the most was knowing yourself as a trader, knowing what are the things that screw you up, right? Like, again, his style in terms of what he does, where he can see a green trade turn into a red trade and just close it out with no, I'm not capable of doing that, right? And yet, he makes money, I make money, Miriam makes money. We're all a little different on style. So again, I can't emphasize that enough. One frustration I've always had being on the education side of this business over the last about 8.5, 9 years is people basically want to try to trade like me. Well, guess what? You're not me. And I don't say that as an insult. I don't say I wish you a more profitable career than I have. I wish that for all of you out there. Okay. But the bottom line is you don't have you have your own mental strengths and weaknesses and the ability to do certain things within your trading to be successful, just like I do. My life experiences, your life experiences, Miriam's life experiences are completely different. Yeah, there are similar paths that we follow of traders and similar guideposts. But at the same time, guys, it's in a show like this can give you a lot of guidance, but you still have to do the mental work. Us talking to you on a stream, and I appreciate, guys, you guys have thrown out a ton of compliments over the past couple of days, and trust me when I say I am proud of what this stream is already. I know we all are, and it's only going to get better. But guys, we can only take you so far, and you have to do the work. I know a lot of you are ready, willing, and eager to do that, and you're doing it. So my best advice would be don't give up. You have to be the right kind of stubborn in trading. Well, what do I mean by that? You have to be stubborn enough not to give up. But you also have to not be so stubborn you're not willing to make changes. I literally had somebody who failed 30 evals in a row, right? I mean, just statistically, if you're just FOMOing and YOLOing every single account, you'd think you'd at least pass one. No, 30 in a row. Who told me, his strategy is solid. It's really blaming the markets rather than that. And I want to be like, bullshit, bro. Like, you blew 30 accounts in probably just 30 days or whatever. You can't trade right now. That's okay. But you need to step back and something needs to change. I mean, again, what's the textbook definition of insanity? Doing the same thing again and again and expecting the same result. So it's just one of those things. All right, guys. So I do want to acknowledge something. I know we've got a couple of things to talk about here as we close out the show. Miriam, we had a bit of a milestone before the program went live today. Why don't you tell everyone about it?
Yes, it looks like we just hit 10K subscribers. Let's throw that. Give it up for, Tradeify TV. We've been live we're going on day 4, I believe.
Yeah.
Day 4, I believe.
Day
so
4.
Give it up to you guys. Shout out to you guys for showing up with us today, showing up with us every day, showing us the love. We appreciate you for spending the time with us. We love it. We love to see it. We love to see all of our, supporters and people trading with us all around the world. It looks like we had like many different continents from the past few days. So, all right, guys. Yeah, apparently we crashed the system. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah, YouTube couldn't handle our 10,000 subscribers. That's but whoever said 140,000 to go, you're goddamn right. So definitely looking forward to that. Guys, if you enjoyed the show today, please tell somebody about it. That's all we ask. I know you guys are part of trading, FinTwit or any type of social media or in a Discord. Just tell people about the show. Say, this is a great stream over there at Tradeify TV. Come on over and give us a watch. We do this 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Miriam, we have a guest tomorrow, don't we?
We absolutely do, and we're gonna throw up that on the screen here in a bit. But we got some great guests for you lined up. I know it's Wednesday, so I feel like being in a shorter week, we're kind of moving through the week. But we got some great guest lineups here. Drew, whenever you're ready, go ahead and throw that up.
We got Brian Stonk tomorrow. The Stonk man cometh.
Oh yeah, and then on Friday we got Big Gains Club. So make sure you guys have the notifications on. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Don't crash the system again. But it's always good to to see that we're doing great. So we are looking forward to this. We're super excited. And as always, we appreciate every single one of you guys. We're looking forward to being here back tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern time, not Pacific. It's actually 8:30 here on the West Coast, which is throwing me off. So we will be starting 8:30 Eastern on tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right.
Yep, we'll see Nick back next week. So, all right, guys. Well, Miriam, why don't you take us home?
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys all. Make sure you are all trading with intention. You are not just throwing yourselves into these trades. As you can see, the market has just been chopping around. We haven't really been doing much. So just stay diligent, stay agile, and go tell someone you love them. I'm gonna continue saying that every single stream, because gratitude is so important to practice in this sort of field. We get caught up in such a, all these crazy chaotic movements of the market. So just make sure you tell someone you love them today. Make sure you tell someone that you are grateful for them and grateful for yourself in this life that you get to wake up to and live and become a trader. So I appreciate you, Matt, as well. Take us home as well.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to another edition of Tradeify TV. We will be back tomorrow, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 8:30 Eastern, and Brian Stonk will join us. So have a great rest of your day, everyone. Kudos to everyone who finished green today. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.